My name is Tyler Fornes, and I am one of the co-hosts of the Good, the Bad, and the Hungy AEW podcast here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. We take a broad scope approach to the world of All Elite Wrestling and the entire universe of Tony Khan. We talk about the big matches, the big stars, the promos, the storylines, and we also look at it from a big picture perspective. How are things going to change over the course of the next 10 years with AEW still in the picture? How are companies like WWE going to adapt and adjust to AEW? Are they going to be a similar way like they did with WCW in the late 1990s? Will there be a counterpunch? We talk about all of that and more on The Good, the Bad, and the Hungy every week on the Voice of Wrestling Network.
Welcome back to the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, as always, Jesse Collings, and joining me once again, he is our Western Massachusetts correspondent. He is a returning guest to the show. He is the Road to Warrior. He covers everything you want to think about when it comes to New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's currently writing a 50,000 word article about Evil, and that is probably not an exaggeration
No.
on what is happening. It is Jay Michael. Jay Michael, welcome back to the show.
What's up, bro? So yeah, I'm out here in Western Mass. Uh, well, I mean, I might as well just start off. We just talked for like 45 minutes about nonsense, and I've been holding back. So I gotta ask you, because you're in Central Mass, but I know you're an Eastern Mass guy, but we're all Massachusetts people. It's been a week since our beloved Patriots were just kind of demolished in the Super Bowl, even though they did have a chance in the fourth quarter to actually win, but Drake May fucked it up. How you feeling? How you holding up?
Oh, I feel like I was over it like 24 hours afterwards.
Yeah,
Because we know we were playing with house money going to the Super Bowl. Like you go to a Super Bowl with your year two quarterback. Like you like any situation is feeling good. They could have lost 100-0. And you'd still be like, wow, hugely successful season, especially because most people expected them to win like 7 games. And they'd won 4 games the year prior. So um it's disappointing because you never like it's never a guarantee that you're going to get to the Super Bowl again. Um, Dan Marino probably being the famous example of like a quarterback who had like a dominant second season, makes the Super
right,
Bowl, doesn't win it, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, that'll be the first of many trips to the Super Bowl for Dan," and he never got back to it. So you
right.
never want to take that stuff for granted, and it was disappointing that they really did not play well, especially offensively. Um,
Well, see,
so it
that's
was,
where I would disagree because
oh,
I
you think?
thought the defense was fucking amazing. I mean, I know
Oh
they
yes,
gave up.
yeah, I want to stress they didn't play well offensively. Their defense
I
was
feel
very,
bad
very
because
good.
like those guys are just never going to get credit for the game they played, and like
Yeah,
honestly, like even though they did give up running yards, but honestly, when you really look at it, they gave up like what, like three medium-sized runs. But otherwise, they kind of just stuffed the run too, especially in the second half. It's like, I mean, yeah,
yeah,
ultimately, I guess they proved the haters right. But damn, there was that point where it was 19-7 and they had the
yep,
ball. And I was like, if they score a touchdown here, I think they're winning the game.
yeah.
But it's like,
Drake throws two perfect passes to Matt Collins on that drive, and they scored their first after basically not doing all game anything all game and punting on like 12 straight possessions.
oh, I
They
know.
go right down the field and score in like I don't know, like 2 minutes.
Yeah,
And then they get the ball back, and then it looks like they're starting to go again. And it's like, all right, we could score and be down like 19-14 with 6.5 minutes left.
yeah,
Um,
very doable.
which felt very doable, but that last interception was really the death blow.
Oh, it
Um,
was awful.
but Drake had
God,
thrown
what a
those,
dumb.
he threw those two like just absolutely beautiful passes to Matt
Yeah.
Collins. So you started feeling, all right, he's in rhythm now, let's go. And then just it was too little, too late. I mean, the game was too big for him. And hopefully he'll learn
Yeah.
from this. But I have no, it's not that, it wasn't like a devastating loss or anything like that. Disappointing, of course, but um, it did feel like there was they didn't play well enough on offense, and they were unlucky, I think, on defense because I don't think Darnold played well at all, and I thought there was
No.
many opportunities for the Patriots to get like an interception and set up a quick score or even like a pick six or something like that, and they were a little unfortunate that nothing really came to fruition. Um, on that end. But Seattle was really well coached. Their defense was excellent. Their defense was as
Yep,
as advertised. I thought I was,
sure.
saying in the lead up. I'm like, I think this defense is a little overrated. They're not that good, but they definitely um, came out to play. But so I'm not that devastated by it personally. And
Well, and Jesse, which offense scored the most touchdowns in that game?
which the Patriots because they scored two,
Yeah,
right?
they scored two
Yeah.
in the so I actually am kind of encouraged. I mean, it is kind of frustrating because it's like, you know, there's all these people that just say stuff to say stuff, right? So like around here it would be Michael Felger. Nationally, it's like Stephen A. Smith has really leaned into this about, the schedule and whatever the fuck, that nonsense. So it is frustrating because everybody's kind of trying to throw it in our face.
Oh, I wanted to
But
stick it to the haters. That's what I cared about almost more than them winning. Like the Patriots winning
oh,
a seventh Super Bowl, that would be awesome. But like the amount of shit that they took throughout the playoffs, and then just
yeah,
like
but
sticking it to the haters would have been awesome because you know there was Patriot hatred largely went away over the last several years with Brady leaves, Belichick's gone, the team's not good, so like.
Mac Jones,
Yeah, so like the national dislike of the Patriots kind of goes away. A lot of that shifts to the Chiefs, understandably so, because they become the new
right?
kind of like dominant force. Um, but then man, when the Patriots made the Super Bowl, really when the Patriots made the AFC Championship game against a backup quarterback and Jarrett Stidham, like, and people were kind of like, oh no, I think the Patriots are going to make the Super Bowl again. You saw suddenly all of that old jealousy and envy that had been buried, for years and years, lying dormant, suddenly comes way back up to the surface, and people start talking about how much they hate the Patriots again. And it was delicious. It would have been so amazing if they just stick it to the haters. But alas, didn't happen.
I know they're really just like swallowing their own tail too because it's like everybody's pissed off that Belichick and Robert Kraft didn't make the Hall of Fame, but they also have to point out the cheating because now that the Patriots are good again, they have to point out that like all the Super Bowls were cheating or whatever the fuck they want to say.
Yeah, it was actually a
Even
good week. It was a great good week when even like the haters are like, "Wait, Bill Belichick didn't make the Hall of Fame."
it was, yeah, they just, I mean, eventually they had to throw that aside. But it was also great because then Jimmy Johnston comes out and he's all pissed off and he's like, finally we get somebody to say like, yeah, we were all doing all of that. Like
Yeah,
everybody was doing what the Patriots were.
people will forget that though. They'll move on. Like I remember like right after Spygate happens, Bill Cowher, who lost many games to Bill Belichick, was
Yep.
on like his CBS news gig and was like, "Oh yeah, everyone was doing that. Like they weren't doing like we were all doing that. Like and like just nobody
Of
cared. Nobody cares
course.
about that. Nobody cares about. No one cares to know the details of Spygate or Deflategate. Like a lot of
No,
people make it seem like Bill Belichick was like himself filming all these practices illegally instead of a guy was standing on the sidelines when he needed to be standing in the stands.
I mean that's all it was. I mean again, like my feeling is always because I grew up playing baseball. Baseball's always been my sport. And I kind of have the feeling like I kind of feel like, you're supposed to cheat in baseball. I kind of actually am disappointed if you're not cheating or trying to cheat.
Yeah, a little
So
Jesse Ventura, like win if you
if you
can't.
have signals, like any game with signals, you should be doing whatever you can to decode them.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they all do that. That's why when you ever go to the sidelines, they're always using like the play sheet to cover their mouths. And baseball players, right? They'll have their gloves over the mouth when they go to the mound. And blah, 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 the other team has a lip reader that's on a walkie-talkie with the other coach being like, "Oh, I think he said this."
I know now they got the little button, right, for the catcher,
Yeah,
which
the
I'm
pitch
really angry
comp.
about. I
Yeah,
know I'm really angry about it. Takes away that
yeah,
part of the game,
yeah. It's harder to cheat now.
but yeah, no, okay. So yeah, no, I just like we always start with something really hyper provincial and local, and I wanted to see if I can alienate the listenership even more by talking about the Patriots. Because everybody's just
No,
pissed off because it's like, we had to wait like 4 years to get back to the Super Bowl.
yeah, those are some
Well,
lean years.
you know what? I they were, and I especially because like I'm glad they're in the place they are now, but it really sucks, because I mean you saw those teams too. I love Gerard Mayo. He's one of my favorite Patriots of all time. And that he had to be the guy to take the fall for last year and basically be run out of the league really sucks because that guy's so great.
I felt
Wait,
bad
hang
for him
on.
because he was given a raw deal.
Oh,
Um,
100%.
and like he's like I honestly like I don't know how good of a coach he is. Like probably not a very good head coach, I guess would be probably my assessment of it. But yes, he was like, and there's some relishment in it. It's like, oh, think of how bad Gerard Mayo is and how great Mike Vrabel is. Um, and Vrabel is like kind of seems like I know this is coming after a Super Bowl where maybe he didn't coach super well. Um,
Right.
but like does feel like a coach at the peak of his powers in terms of he is very much like a player's coach and very much
Right.
like a ex NFL linebacker that's also a player that was a player that is now a coach. But he's also very like a very keen game manager and understands the rule book and like
Oh man.
he seems to be
I
the
mean, you remember
best
that
of
game, right?
he seems to be the best. You're talking about that when he was trading the like was it intentional delay of games to work some
And
extra
Belichick
shave
was
some
just like
seconds.
steaming. I mean, you could just
Yeah.
see the fog coming out of his ears. He was so
Yeah.
mad. And he
Um
couldn't do anything.
yeah, no, he's got like kind of the best of both worlds where he's very, analytical game manager, understands the game at a really high level, but also is a motivator, relatable locker room presence.
Oh yeah, I
So
mean, you saw the video after the Super Bowl, right? Where I mean, he still did the whole thing where he waits for everybody. And it was
he,
pretty inspiring, I got to admit.
yeah, everyone wishes they had a Mike Vrabel in their life.
Oh yeah, and again, like I am very bullish on the team because like they're bringing most people back, right? There's not a lot of people who are leaving. And like if you have a defense that fucking good, and like the one thing that even the most ardent haters had to say was they were like, Milt Williams is a beast. He still is. He just like pushes the offensive line backwards at ease. And Gonzo is fucking incredible. Like that was like the thing everybody took away that weren't Patriots fans. Was like, God damn, that guy really is for real, isn't he? And he is.
Yeah, I mean they didn't get beat by Smith and Jigbo, that's for sure.
No,
And
he did nothing in the game.
yeah, I mean I think the data showed all year that when Williams and Gonzalez are healthy and playing together, and Spillane, who missed some time. But when those
Right.
three guys are healthy, and we saw that throughout the playoffs, that when those three guys are healthy, this is, an elite defense. And they'll obviously have a harder schedule, and we can kiss all those glorious 1 o'clock games goodbye too. Because I
But
loved that
you know
like
what?
every game was at 1 o'clock on Sunday because there weren't a national, focus on them. And next
I
year, I'm
know.
sure that they're going to be playing, on Monday night and Thursday night and Sunday
Oh,
night,
it's
and like it's
fucks me
going to be
up.
all over the place.
Well, and you know what? Max Crosby, he's coming. He's
You
walking
think?
through that door.
You think so?
I hope so.
He's like Larry Fitzgerald, who was rumored to be going to the Patriots for 10 consecutive seasons, but never actually did.
I mean, it's not going to help the offensive line, but if that defense adds Max Crosby rushing with Milt Williams up the middle and then him coming off the edge, gives a fuck what the offense does. And
Um,
also, like, and also, let's be real here. I mean, you know how that, I think people just don't know how the scheduling works. Like, I don't really know the intricacies of how the Patriots ended up with like a historically easy schedule. I mean, besides just being so bad the year before.
yes.
But like, you know, the Bills played, what is it? Everybody but what, 3 games was the same.
Yes, because they're playing like the NFC South,
I
like we
mean, that's
are.
the difference between, 14 and 3 and 11 and 6 or whatever, but let's say they just lose those. They're still 11 and 6.
Yeah.
They're still in the playoffs, so it's all nonsense.
Yeah.
They're going to be as good next year. And then
We'll
also,
see.
whatever the deal with Drake May's arm was.
Oh yeah, his shoulder. We'll see. We'll see how they do.
Could have been a thing.
Moving on, we fortunately able to move on to a surprisingly very fun Celtics season. So,
Oh,
uh,
yes, indeed.
yes, and
Oh, yeah.
it's potentially going to be even more enjoyable in about a week or two. So,
Whoa, whoa. Is that the timetable? Or
everything, everything seems to suggest that Tatum will be returning to the team very, very shortly from like what he's progressing in rehabbing as he's
That's
up to.
that's insane.
He's scrimmaging 5-on-5. So
That is so
we're probably
insane.
like 2 weeks away. I think like his conventionalism, I think his birthday is like March 4th or something like that. So um I would say and they're making moves too. Like they at the trade deadline, they traded Anthony Simons for Nikola Vucevic, which was kind of like somewhat like similar players in terms of their value, but one was a big man and the other was a perimeter player. So the idea
Right,
being like, okay, we're not going to need Simons' perimeter creation because Tatum's coming back. They moved Pritchard kind of back into his bench role as opposed to him being a
right.
starter for most of the season, which was kind of strange, but not strange if you think that Tatum's coming back and it's going to give Pritchard more rhythm to come off the bench. Um, Earlier. So it just everything is indicating that he's coming back, except for like a formal announcement that he's
Oh,
coming back. But he's definitely going to be coming back and probably pretty soon.
it's gonna be interesting because I mean the Celtics play such a unique style right now. I don't know how they're gonna work him into it, but
They're going to be great. I'm not worried about it. It's a convoluted storyline, which is like, oh, well, Jaylen Brown's been so good this year. Is he going to be willing to give the reins back to Jason Tatum? And it's all manufactured bullshit by people. These two guys have never given any indication that they haven't been able to play together. So.
no, they've been playing together for a fucking decade.
Yeah, like if I was like Baylor Shireman, I might be worried about like my role in the team when Jason Tatum comes back. But
I've
uh,
never seen a more sour person in the NBA. Like he just looks pissed off after every possession. Defense,
who?
offense, he scores a slam dunk, he gets dunked on. He just like seems so pissed off about something.
It's
Or he's
good. We
just
need
like
anger.
shit.
Anger. Um, anyway, we're not here to talk about Massachusetts, even though I secretly really wants to. Um,
Got it
New
in.
Japan Pro Wrestling has had a very eventful 2026 so far, even more eventful than I
Yeah.
think we maybe would have expected. We knew it was going to be a year of change. Obviously, with Tanahashi retiring, um, you know, we knew that was happening at the Tokyo Dome, and we also knew that like guys like Tetsuya Naito were going to be no longer with the company in 2026, um, and that there was going to have to be some sort of significant changes uh, by necessity in New Japan. But even so, I think that the first 6 weeks of 2026 have been a really happening time for New Japan. It's been, I think, very transformative in terms of the direction that the company is going in. There's
Hmm.
so much like stuff from a creative perspective and new wrestlers and people departing the company. But I guess I'll start just with a very basic question. If you had to give I have my answer for this, but I'll ask you first. If you had to
Okay.
give a letter grade to New Japan Pro Wrestling's overall performance so far in the year 2026, what would you give it?
Well, as you know, I give out letter grades for a living, so mine is the appropriate one. And I'm not going to get too deep into the philosophy of what these letter grades mean, because there actually is something that they all mean. I'm gonna go. See, now I have to think because there's one thing that they did that was really bad, and if I was grading this, I would hit them hard just to teach them a lesson. All grades are advice, by the way.
Yeah.
If you tell that to your teacher, you should get out of something because technically that's what they're supposed to be. You know what? I'm gonna be cautious here, and I'm gonna give them a B plus. 'Cause there's some
Okay,
things that they're doing that's a bit
that is
weird.
also the grade that I have given them.
Okay, so you're correct.
Thank you. Be so funny
Um,
if you're just like you just did that preamble and you just said, I'm gonna give them an F.
I did give them an F last year in a number of different categories, and they earned that fucking F. You know.
Yes, and B plus feels like the appropriate grade, at least for me, because I feel like overall it's been a really positive year for the company from like a vibe shift perspective. I think they have a lot of interesting future directions and future wrestlers that have emerged, I think, in 2026 already.
Mhm.
But there is still a few, for lack of a better term, Gatoisms
Yeah.
that are preventing me from being like, okay, this is going to be an amazing, amazing pro wrestling company in 2026. And that was evident at the New Beginning show, which took place last week.
Yeah, so I think like for me, a B plus is, like B is like you're proficient or you've mastered the material or it's just like, you've reached that level and they seem like they're at the high level, like high proficiency, but they're not kind of at the point of like excellence or exceeding expectations or however you want to put it. A New Beginning was an interesting show
Yes.
because like they're in a very weird place right now. We'll talk about a very certain someone who's put them in a weird situation where I think they're adapting very well. Because obviously that was a very strange Wrestle Kingdom card, right? It wasn't a traditional Wrestle Kingdom. I mean, it ended with like Tanahashi on like this giant palanquin being pushed by young lions and fucking Hanma. They forced him to push him too, even though he can't even walk. He's pushing this giant cart around a baseball stadium for like 45 minutes. And it was great, but then I think what you saw with New Beginning, and the reason why I would say it's B plus and not like an A or an A minus, is exactly what you said. Like they're smoothing things out, but there's a ton of things that still need work on. And it's probably going to take some time because, like, you just can't flip the switch with what they've done. Like, they've been in a holding pattern for 2 fucking years,
Hmm.
right? And there's things that they've done, which I very much appreciated. I think the United Empire is like the biggest one at the top of my list. I mean, I think I said that last time when I was on with like, if they want to turn this around, they got to get serious about the factions again. And the United Empire is probably at the top of the list. And they've definitely committed to them. But they've done some weird things too. And obviously, like you said, like there's a shuffle going on right now in ways that we didn't expect. Like, we don't know what Gabe Kidd's up to. We probably had an idea that Dave Finlay might finally take his shot to get out of here. And nobody saw Evil coming. So, yeah, it feels like, you can't pull yourself out of the trench easily. And, I keep coming back to this idea that it's like, it's basic Newtonian physics. When you have all the momentum, nothing can stop you. But once you're stopped, and the pandemic stopped them cold, it just takes effort to get that going. And we're seeing that process. And Tanahashi gave them a good shove. Probably, another thing that he did for the company on his way to retirement. But it's still going to take effort. I mean, this isn't going to be like an overnight thing. But they've got all the ingredients there for sure.
I think if you're looking at the top of the card and you're thinking about like, okay, Tanahashi's retired, Naito's gone, Okada left, um, and even you're seeing some more like ancillary, not quite top guys, but like guys like David Finlay and guys like Evil, guys that have been really pushed, seem like they're on their way out. Um, so you take all that and you say like, okay, who are going to fill those roles? It does feel like they have a lot of promising people to fill those roles. Um, and there's been some real like surprises. Like I think Yuto Ice has been a huge surprise
Hmm.
in terms of I don't know how you feel about him personally. Um, I feel like he's been really, really exciting and fun, and that tag team has been such a breath of fresh air for the tag division in general and just New Japan overall.
Hmm.
And I didn't see that. Like, I don't really remember his Young Lion days.
I do.
Like, I don't really remember him like on excursion. He just kind of came back. And I remember Oscar because there's not too many like 6'8" German young lions that they've had over the years.
Right. With
Uh,
Avatar: The Last Airbender tattoos.
yes. I, like I remember him, but it's like Yuto Ice, like I don't remember this Yuto uh his young boy days at
Nakashima.
all. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I mean I'm sure I watched his matches, but he just kind of in my mind blended into one. But he comes back and it's like, oh, all of a sudden he's like the most charismatic person in the company. He's cutting these like show closing promos that are
Yeah.
these things. It's like, where did this come from? But he's just
Yeah.
one of what I feel like is several really positive directions the company has. That makes me feel really optimistic that the talent is there and and that there is um, a willingness from the audience to get behind these people, which can
Hmm.
sometimes be challenging given their booking directions and how slow this company has been to elevate new people. The fact that it feels like
Right.
the audience is really into buying some of these guys who
Hmm.
haven't necessarily been, around for years and years as stars um, is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, I've kind of come around on the idea. I understand because of the things that have happened. Okada left, and you know, I got to admit, I wrote the New Japan Primer, which kind of just ended up being a single-handed ebook, because I think that actually did end up being like 50,000 words. And I wrote that and published that like right before Wrestle Kingdom, and then me and John Carroll did one of our usual thorough previews, and you know, to do that, I wanted to make sure I was caught up on stuff, and I was kind of scouring New Japan World. And one of the things that saw that I hadn't watched yet, they did this documentary on Okada as he was leaving. I
Hmm.
really highly recommend it because, if you want to see people working but pretending that they're actually engaged in real life, like most documentaries, I guess, watch this one. Like, first he pretends like he doesn't know he's leaving. Then he pretends like it just was this epiphany, like, I'm gonna leave. And then we get to like this next phase of the documentary. And Okada's like, gee, he's in like his home office. And he's like, geez, I don't know where I'm gonna go. Am I gonna go WWE or AEW? Jesus, I just can't decide. And it's like, motherfucker, you knew this probably like 2022. Give me a fucking break that you didn't know which one you're gonna go. Anyway, the reason I bring it up is because like he left, and that came out of nowhere. Osprey left, but obviously AEW sort of spilled the beans on that like 6 months early. And like that happened ages ago. And I guess the idea, which is valid, I think we have opposite sides that are valid here, where you should have just done something fast and rocket shipped or whatever you want to call it, these guys. But ultimately, I just don't think they were ready then. Okada refusing to work with them certainly didn't help. But I don't think these guys were ready in 2024. I mean, they did rocket ship Suji, and they just never sealed the deal until last month. But ultimately, I think we're in that place. I don't think they needed to be in this holding pattern for like 2 years. But we did get the Goto title reign out of it, which was awesome last year. I think ultimately, like, we're at this place in 2026 where Goto and Tanahashi got them here. And now they feel not fully formed just yet, but, they've certainly germinated a lot more. And it feels like they're all on the cusp. Like even Suji feels like he's on the cusp. I still don't feel like we've seen the real Suji yet. It feels like there's just still something about him that just not there just yet. But then you look at like all those guys that have come back, and then the other thing that they just did that was really cool. I don't know if you got a chance to see all of this, Jesse. Did you see the Young Lion Cup?
I did.
How fucking great were those matches?
Yeah, which one is the guy who has this is gonna sound really bad. The guy who has like Ligo.
Oh, the guy who won it?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, no, that's the thing. Like, because you were mentioning Yuta Weiss, and I still don't really know what's up with Yuta Weiss's jaw. Like, it's one of those things where it's like there's something there, and because I do watch all these documentaries, and they've done these like mini, like 30-minute documentaries on each of the new guys. I think it's called New Heroes, and his was all about like he
Yeah.
used to get in fights all the time, and then he got into MMA, and
Morishima, is that the guy?
yeah,
That's
yep.
the Young Lion people are the highest on, or at least
The
seems like it
Pooh
is.
Bear sort of
Yeah,
puffy
yeah,
kid
yeah.
who I know that not many people do this. I always recommend watching the backstage comments. His were like probably some of the worst of all time, even for a
Yeah.
young lion. And then recently he just like screams in anger at the end of all of them, and it's really funny with this kind of puffy face, and like it's really great. He's come a long way, but like I think the one thing through all of this that you can trust you can trust their system. Like they don't put people on TV that aren't going to be good. And they really just, you know, whatever their system is of choosing these guys, we don't really see any duds. Even Watto has shown flashes. I mean, he had the Teton match, right? Even when he was at his worst, it was like there's still
Yeah,
something there.
the guys who are really bad at New Japan are like veterans who have given up
Right, which are they're all in House of Torture.
for the
So
most
we've
part.
got
Yes.
like I mean, like you look at that and it's like I'm so high on this crop of young lions, like Marashima, but then there's like Yasuda, who was like his twin brother is the
Shonakato.
one that's with Kato's really like he's probably the one that people are overlooking, but like there's something about him, like he just has a really punchable face, and he kind of acts like a brat, and I'm really interested to see these matches that he's going to have in Fantastica Mania, because I think on the first Korakuen show he's facing Teton, so that should be a real fun match. And Fantastica Mania is my favorite tour of the year anyway. But like like Matsumoto, who's one of the new guys, Zane J has joined the United Empire and he's actually doing stuff with them.
Yeah, he's like
I
a
think he's
pseudo
getting real
young
excited.
boy.
Yeah, and with him, it's hard to really wrap your head around it, but like most of the guys who came out of the LA dojo, they had started somewhere else, right? So even somebody with very little experience, like Clark Connors, technically he started somewhere else.
Hmm.
Zane J is like fresh. Like they got him with no experience at all. He's like a pure New Japan product. So I'm very excited to see how he does too. So, I think the future's bright just because, like you said, the talent level and the breadth of talent's really there. And I know that there was some like, you know, there was some huffing about like seeing the New Japan Cup bracket and people being like, "Oh my God." And it's like, that's your reaction if you're really not paying attention. But if you have faith in these kids, and I think you should, that's a really exciting New Japan Cup bracket. There's a lot of interesting matchups there. And I think, yeah, like the names are gone. And guys that they had recently built up, like Finlay, are gone. But what's left is really awesome. And you're at the ground floor of it. Or maybe the
Yeah, I mean
first
when
or
you're
second
looking,
floor.
yeah, when you're
We're
looking
going
at like
up.
when you're looking at the full bracket too, you're looking at like the guys in the first round who are going to get bounced early, and you're like, oh, so you just see some like dead weight, but those guys have to kind of be on there to fill out the numbers. Like, I guess there's a world where you get some maybe like a few like interesting outsiders on there to just spice things up, but I think by
Right.
the time we get to like the the quarterfinals of that tournament, it will probably
I
look
mean,
pretty good.
the last outsider that they brought in to spice up the New Japan Cup was the scapegoat. So be careful what you wish for, because I don't know if you remember the scapegoat, but in my deep dive of evil, I got a
Former
helping spoonful
House of Torture member.
of Jack Perry, and he might still be. I mean, as far as I know, but I'm looking at these. I mean, this is something that me and Chris Samsa talk about quite a bit when people are like, "Oh my God," like last year, like, "Look at this G1. Oh my God," and it's like. If you really look at it, like when has there been a New Japan Cup that was just like top to bottom? Like
The New Japan
everybody's
Cup,
like,
especially, because kind of everyone gets to get in it.
right. So it's like, okay, so yes, Yujiro's in it, Don Foley's in it, but I'm looking at this
Yes.
New Japan Cup and I'm like, these are gonna be some pretty sweet matches. And even like the lower guys, like I'm looking at it, like I don't see a lot of weak links, honestly, there. Like Hartley Jackson being in it is a very good thing. Something like that. Where
Oh,
it's
this
like,
is a podcast that respects Harley Jackson.
I'm I don't know why they took the title off of him. I I
I mean, those are
I know it's a
titles they can move around to. Like,
I know, but they just won the goddamn things. I really was excited to see that team, even though I mean they did lose it to like a team I'm also really excited about. Just something for Bolton to do for a
yeah,
while.
yeah, Bolton. And if you're gonna talk about like young guys that I feel enthusiastic about, like Bolton is not only really, really good, he's like so good and he's so big and athletic that
Yeah.
it almost like strains credibility that he loses.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree.
Kind of like this is like kind of like the Brock Lesnar, thing, where like Brock Lesnar is so, enormous and athletic and dangerous and comes across so legitimate that like unless he's wrestling some other just absolute monster of a person, which like the Bolton Oleg and Hartley Jackson match was super
Right.
entertaining from one of the Road
Oh
2
yeah.
shows.
Oh my
In
God, it was great.
in part because of this reason, but it's like you know, I really like let's pick someone on the roster like Roy Oiwa.
Hmm.
I was like, I don't really think like you just see these two guys like if Oiwa and like Bolton are in the ring together, it's like Bolton has to win. Like, look at this guy.
Of course. Well, and on that subject, uh, kind of an aside that I've always kind of complained. I think New Japan is very lucky that Great Khan was great at like combat sports that like very little exists and nobody's gonna watch it because like Great Khan just like hasn't done anything in 5 years, and he was literally the national champion of for amateur wrestling, and he has all those ribbons and trophies, and there are times where I'm just like, Great Khan should win every single match. Like nobody should beat him. And then I was watching, actually, it was that match you're talking about, the Hartley Jackson Bolton match from the Road to at Korakuen, and I just kind of realized, like Oleg Bolton, I wouldn't put him in that Akiyama Kurt Angle sphere, but he's kind of like just below it when you think about a guy who has absolutely no professional wrestling. Not even, I don't think he even watched it, or he was like aware of it, but I don't think he had, like in Kazakhstan, he was really watching wrestling. And
Yeah.
he just came into wrestling and like, I think it's kind of understated, like you were pointing out, that he's like one of like possibly the all-time naturals at wrestling. Like you just watch him and you can't believe that this guy's only like 2 years in, like 2 years in from like nothing. Like it's amazing.
And he's just like he's like a freak athlete. Like he's so big and like he's so like muscular, but he's not like like a freakish like a bodybuilder muscular. He's just like this huge athlete that's athletic and smooth and like like again like it's he's so good it's like I said like it strains credibility that he would like lose a wrestling match to somebody that was like much smaller than him because he is way bigger than everyone else and he's also like much
Hmm.
faster than pretty much everyone else and he's got a better like amateur background than everyone else like
Yeah, I mean, I
he's
don't.
like he's the kind of guy that can't be a mid-carder.
No, no, and he's. I mean, I guess he's technically been there, but I mean, they did give him the never title. I mean, I don't know how credible. I mean, they say this. I mean, I don't know much about the Kazakhstan wrestling hierarchy or anything. I mean, they say that if he didn't get hurt, he might have made the Olympics. And I don't know how much you follow it, but it seems like every country kind of has the same thing where it's like just making the Olympics in amateur wrestling is like an amazing accomplishment. Like
Yeah, I'm not a huge. I would imagine that um, it's a pretty competitive country to make the Olympics out of.
oh
Like
yeah,
those are
I would
countries where
think so.
wrestling is really, really, really important as a
Yeah,
sport.
well, I mean, again, I think it's kind of the same here, where it's like, well, again, not to keep harping on this, but do you remember Stephen Neal, right? The Patriots offensive lineman,
Of course, NCAA heavyweight champion Stephen Neal.
and who did he beat to win that title?
He he beat Brock Lesnar, right?
He beat Brock. He's the only person I think to beat Brock Lesnar in college. And then, that's not the end of the Stephen Neal story because he went after that to then win the world championship. And that was in 1999. So it was like, I don't rem I wasn't paying attention at the time, but I would imagine the feeling was like, this guy's going to go to like, he's peaking at just the right time to go to the Olympics the next year and just win the gold medal. And then he lost in the qualifiers, and it's like single elimination. It doesn't matter if you're the world champion
Yeah, because
or,
you only get like
however.
one person per weight class. So
Right.
especially if you're a heavyweight, if you're a lighter weight, you could go up or down without too much uh, struggle to find a weight division that doesn't have maybe a better wrestler at. But especially in a country like the United States, like it's possible that you could be the second best heavyweight wrestler in the world and you don't get that
And
spot because the best one is in front of you.
right, you just have a bad day at qualifiers and you're going home. And I've read about it where I think it was like one of those things where people were like, "Fuck, this guy that beat him is never going to win the gold,"
Yeah.
and he probably could have, but he caught him. So technically, it's really annoying. But yeah, no. So Bolton being that close to the Olympics, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's he's just so good at everything because I think one of the things, like his selling is so goddamn good. I was watching him like he just like, and you see like comparing him to Aaron Wolf, right? Which maybe not be fair on Aaron Wolf's side, but I think it's kind of cool to compare the two from Ole Bolton's perspective, where there's things that Wolf is a little bit kind of stout on, a little bit soft on, and his selling is good, but then you look at old Bolton's selling, and it's like, wow, Bolton's selling so good. He just does every aspect of the game so goddamn well. And I gotta say, I wonder if it's Takeshita. And again, I know it's tricky talking about this because if you talk about Takeshita, you know, you sort of trigger the AEW thing from both sides, right? And everybody gets on edge. But I don't watch AEW. Takeshita to me is a DDT wrestler because I love DDT. And I think like you watch those Takeshita matches that they had last year, and it seems like that's really where Bolton made a leap too. Like, do
Mhm.
you remember? I think they did it in both matches, but I definitely think in the G1 match, they like stopped, went outside the ring, and then like charged each other and did like a collar and elbow tie up outside on the
Yeah.
aisleway. And it was such a hard one too. And I was like, this is fucking awesome. And I think like you're right. Like I think Bolton should be world champion. I mean, I think I know we're like Suji brought back the IWGP and we're talking about maybe making it exclusive again. But if we get through all of this and Oleg Bolton doesn't hold that belt at least once, something wrong happened. Something went very much awry because he's only
I,
33.
yeah. I just think that he is the kind of person that like from a booking perspective, like I said, like, he can't be a mid-carder. Like
No.
he should be presented as like this dominant person almost never loses because of his look and because of his skill set and because of his legitimate background. Um, if he was kind of like in any other time period, I feel like that's the way he would be presented. But because he, came up through New Japan, is trained in their system, and like there's this idea like he doesn't quite have to start at like young lion status and work his way up the card. He's he never really quite had to like start at the very, very, very bottom, it feels like.
Right.
But like he's someone that shouldn't be on like a 5 year, 6 year track to eventually become a main eventer and world champion. Like that should be happening very soon because his grasp of pro wrestling has exceeded expectations and because he has all of the physical tools going for him. And it
Oh,
just seems like kind of waste. Like I don't want to like we can talk about Jake Lee later, but it's like we're
another
in a
reason it's a B
company
plus and not an A minus.
like we're in a company that's gonna push Jake Lee as like a a pretty much like a top star.
Hmm.
Um it's like so Jake Lee like there's no in no world in no universe should Jake Lee be able to be in that position and Oleg Bolton is, you know, hanging around the mid card working third from the top and this the 6 man, tag titles.
No, I agree. I mean, when we talk to Jake Lee, I've got much more to say about him, but it is like like Bolton's already held the Never title. He's got these 6 man titles again. I think he's primed, maybe not this year, but next year, I think he should, I want to say just win the damn thing, but he should probably make the finals of at least one of these tournaments. You know what I
I
mean?
just I don't know why you would I just don't know why you would beat this guy before making him world champion. Because I think there's a whole aura that can be built around him because of his physical tools, because of his ability that he's shown so far. that he's someone that I feel like you don't want to have come up short in big moments. I think he should just win the damn thing. I don't think there's much to be gained by like, oh, he's got to learn to lose and then he'll, get better because of that. I think he's the kind of guy that wins the world title and you can eventually beat him. Like, I don't think he should be, he doesn't need to go on like a Goldberg 180 match winning streak, but he's someone whose losses should be kept very spare and also allow him to build up this aura as this is the most physically dominant force in pro wrestling, which is how he should be because of all the things we talked about. He should be presented as this is the most dangerous, athletic, skilled, aggressive big man in the entire wrestling world. And if he's going to get in the ring with anybody, even somebody that's really good, he's probably going to fuck them up.
Yeah, and to your point, I was thinking, I remember his G1. I remember I was impressed with it, but I couldn't remember exactly why. Well, first of all, in his second G1, he got 10 points, right? And getting a winning record in the G1, I think still has value.
Yeah.
But, obviously, the G1 is weird, right? Because you can beat guys and it doesn't really matter, but you can make something out of it. I mean, the people he lost to in the G1 last year was Evil, David Finlay, Yota Tsuji, and Yuya Uemura. That says something right there, doesn't it?
I know what
I
you're
mean, I'd
saying,
like
but
to
like
see
in
him.
my mind, I'm like David Finlay should never beat Boltin Oleg in a wrestling match.
Oh, see, this is where. All right, so I try not to listen to Voices of Wrestling or the Joel. What's Joel's show's name?
Super
The Super
J-Cast.
J Cast. Just before I do stuff like this, 'cause I don't want it to influence me, but I ended up listening to it, and I don't really disagree with Rich or Joe on anything really right now. I have, but not at the moment. I kind of think they're spot on. Except, I do not understand where Joe doesn't see David Finlay having charisma. I just don't understand how he's not come around on that. I think you're right. I think like David Finlay, especially knowing that he's gone, I think David Finlay beating Oleg Boltin in the G1 and then losing to him, in the fall. But they couldn't do that because they had to have Bolton lose to Evil so that Evil could face Aaron Wolf, and there was all these things
Yes, no,
against it.
and
But
I understand what your point is that like David Finlay is a protected push commodity in New Japan Pro Wrestling at the time. So the fact that Bolton's losses were largely reserved for people that they had big plans for shows that they in turn see him as somebody that they have big plans for.
yeah, he's sort of slotted at that level, and I think he's only been around for you know 2 years or so, 2.5 years. So, I think like, I agree with you that I think like, okay, that's where he's slotted, but it's that slot needs to end and he needs to move the next slot up. But, I think they've done a pretty good job with him. Um, and oh yeah, he lost to Suchi the year before too. That's an interesting one. I think there's some big wins for him to come out and get. And let's see, who's he facing in the New Japan Cup? Because that's going to tell me quite a bit. Okay, so I think, ooh, that's interesting. So he has ELP in the first round, and if he loses the ELP, we might have to change that grade quite
Yeah.
significantly. And you know what? I actually do like ELP. I know a lot of people don't like him, but there's no way he should be beating Olin Bolton. Um,
ELP is a guy to me who is a very good professional wrestler who has kind of no upside working in New Japan currently.
Yeah, and I can't remember who I was talking about this with, or if it was on the air or whatever. I'm so lost these days. But I know, or maybe it came up in the Slack chat or whatever. It's like, could we trade ELP? Oh wait, no, it was me and Joel. Could we trade ELP to DADT for Mao? Right? Because I want to see Mao in New Japan, and then like ELP would really flourish in DDT.
Oh, this is
And
like one
by the
that's like one
way,
of those that's like one of those trades where like the Ringer wrestling podcast people shows make where like the WWE gives up like some old veteran that they have no longer use for. And it's like, yeah, what if we traded them to AEW for Kyle Fletcher? That's what it sounds like. Because I Mao's incredible, I think.
He is. Well, it's also just yeah, I just love Mao so much. But I think
Yes.
like DDT is a good place because again, it's like, if you're really not paying attention, like obviously it's like, there is a lot of stuff that's just like, you know, just completely preposterous, right? But, you also look at DDT as such a talented roster of guys like
Hmm.
Mao, right? Where, it's kind of the way they've always been since like the Ibushi Omega days. And obviously they produced Takeshita and they just keep producing these like world level talents in their dojo.
Yeah.
But EOP can go there and have like really awesome matches too. It's
Yeah.
just if he beats Oleg Boltin, there's a lot of reflection that's going to have to go down. And that's the first round too. Like, because the winner gets Hanare, and
Hmm.
I'm sorry. Listen, El Phantasmo, I know like he's an awesome guy. He came back from cancer like ridiculously fast. I know that like from what I've heard, what everybody says, like everybody loves him back there. Everybody likes him, and he treats everybody well. But on camera, if we get ELP Hanare instead of Bolton Hanare, which Bolton Hanare is gonna fucking slam. I mean, that's the match. And I just saw that Hanare did beat Bolton the last time they wrestled at the G1. So like it seems like you're just like that's a nice path for Bolton to make the quarterfinals. And then probably face Ren Narita. And we can talk about him later, but it looks like he's got a little bit of a run set up for him here in the New Japan Cup.
And that's all well and good. I guess my overarching point with Bolton is that I think he is a guy that you have to handle his booking more carefully than others because I think that there is a potential there for him to be a mega star, but that potential is largely tied to where he has to be very protected in booking. And I feel like he cannot be
Sure.
viewed just like another high upside guy that they have on the roster. You can't book Bolton the way you want to book like Oiwa. And that is not a slight against Oiwa because I think it's really talented. I just think Bolton's skill set calls for him to be pushed in a certain way. And that way is like basically how WWE pushed Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, and I think that's a good person to choose because I think we all think, and those that were paying attention to Noah have sworn, and I think we saw on January 5th, Oiwa can be world champion level, and I think he'll probably
Hmm.
get there. But I think what you're saying, Oi was a guy that I wouldn't rush him. You know what I mean? Like I think he's a guy that it'll mean more if you take a little bit more time with him.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
I
like
100
Goto
that
time, but a
yes,
few
everyone is
years.
on a different path to reaching their potential, and some people are going to be have to come through like long-standing attrition with the audience, which is more important now than ever when it comes to making a wrestling star just across the business. I talked about this with um, Sarah from the Trish and Sarah podcast on my last podcast, where we talked about like the death of rocket strap pushes, which is kind of what I'm advocating
Right.
for Boltin
Hmm.
Oleg to get. But it's like it seems now more than ever that like the wrestling fan wants to have like this really multi-year relationship with these wrestlers before they see them eventually win the world title and like reach their summit, as opposed to previously it seemed like most fans were just excited for a new wrestler. But now it seems like it's very important for wrestlers fans to feel like they've have long-standing connections and emotional relationships with these wrestlers, and they want to see them, start at the bottom and scrape their way up to the top.
I don't mean to interrupt you here, but before we got on, Jesse was denigrating the Winter Olympics, and he thinks that they're ridiculous and should be abolished. And I just want to say I'm like watching them right now, and I know that they're taped, so this is dumb, but I don't spoil myself. But I'm watching the ice dance, and I'm sure you think the ice dance is
I'm glad
dumb.
you're locked into my points in this podcast, by the way.
I am. Listen, the Japanese team, like the guy messed up yesterday, and he messed up on the short program, and it looked like they were out. And then they just did like this incredible free skate and went to number one, and they're so excited. And I'm getting a little bit emotional right now watching it. Like they were just dead yesterday, and this guy was like practically crying on the ice. Like he just looked so depressed. and he just looked like he was just like I've never seen anybody so despondent in sports before, especially on like the ice. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
J. Michael, what does that have
Olympics
to
are
do with
great.
Roy Oiwa?
Well, so Oiwa stumbled when he first came back to New Japan, and he wasn't really getting the response and like all this stuff with Noah, right? Where he was incredible with Noah and him with Kiyomiya and all that stuff.
He had been
And
pushed to Noah, and he kind of came back and
right,
started at square one in New Japan, which was odd if you had watched him in Noah.
really fucking strange, right? I mean, these domestic, yeah, it's just why you don't do domestic excursions because, like, I mean, I gave up on Noah because of fuckface Muto ruining everything, even though I guess the person that he didn't like turned out to be a real dickhead. But I guess we knew Nakajima was that anyway. But, I purposely don't pay attention to the excursions. Um, I want these guys to go away and I want them to come back fresh, new coat of paint, the whole deal. And I don't want to know anything that they're doing. I want it to just be something where they're at. Like it really is just like they go away and then they come back. And Oiwa came back and it's like, wow, he was so awesome in Noah. And then he was just like so bland. And I don't know if you went to this, Jesse. I think you didn't. I know Joe Gagney went to it and then he ghosted me after. I went to that show in Lowell. What's it, late 2024. The Fighting Spirit Unleashed, which like
I was not there.
500. Yeah, well, you and everybody else that went in 2019 decided to skip this one.
Well, I
I
have a good reason for that.
listen, they got two. I mean, listen, I don't know if you've been to the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. Have you ever been there?
I have our offline conversation about that evil interaction between Evil and my
Oh,
dad
right.
took place at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium, and like the greatest wrestling show I've ever been to, which was like the 2019. Uh, I forget what the name of the show was. It was like it wasn't Super Card of Honor, but it was an ROH pay-per-view that had like a lot of New Japan. Did you go to this show? This show?
I didn't.
You did?
I didn't. I didn't go to that one.
Okay, so you missed. They had like so. I mean, the main event was the Young Bucks versus Daniels and Kazarian versus um was it the Briscoes? No, it was another tag team. Was it? Oh, the Motor City Machine Guns in a like
Oh, damn.
insane ladder, like insane ladder match,
Oh, maybe I should
which
have gone to
Dave
that.
said he was going to give 5 stars to, but didn't because he was afraid if he gave 5 stars to it, it would just encourage other people to be super dangerous in the ring. The all-time bullshit, Dave. 5 stars.
Oh,
But like there
damn.
was like there was a Dragon Lee. I think he was Kamatachi at the time match on that
Oh,
show.
Hiromu? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like they did that, their traveling match,
Yep.
which like most of the people in the audience hadn't seen before, so it was insane. There was a very exciting Naito Jay Lethal match.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
there it was like an incredible show. I highly recommend that. I can't remember the name of it, of course, but it's easily the best wrestling show I've ever been to personally.
Oh,
And I was
cool.
at the Lowell
Well, then,
Memorial Auditorium.
yeah. Well, then like it's a very cool, like it's kind of a rundown venue. Like the chairs are kind of ratty and like the floors,
Yeah, it's
but
like 80 years
it
old.
it's a really awesome venue though. And
Mhm.
I gotta show you the picture because when I went to this one in 2024, I was on like the front row of that like mezzanine ring,
Yep.
and that's like perfect angle. You're like what 10, 15 feet above the ring,
Mhm.
and you're just like looking down on the ring. It's awesome. But only like 500 people went to that show. I mean, it looked as bad as it looked on camera.
Well, it's
And I
because
know
they
they
had
play.
no card announced for that show like until like a few days before. And it actually ended up being a pretty good card, but I had already made the
Yeah.
decision not to go to the show because they had literally nothing announced for it.
Well, and like, okay, so when you were there, like when it's full, I would say 2,000 is probably pretty close to accurate, right? It's about 2,000 if everybody's there, the floor is filled, the whole deal.
Yeah.
They claimed 1,000, and there's no fucking way there was 1,000 people at that show. I counted like I was able. Well, I mean, I don't normally do this, but I was actually able to count how many people were on that mezzanine level, and it was like 150, which it should be like 1,000. So it was a rough show, so I'm not holding it too far against him, but like Roy Oiwa was so fucking bland at that show. Like just nothing came across about him. He just like the Young Lions came across better than him. Like even like the Matt Van Griffin had more personality than him, right? So, like with Oiwa, yes, he stumbled at the beginning, but again, it's there. I think like there's so many key things that have been happening lately. I think that match with Yuya Uemura in the G1 was like a critical match. Because he doesn't really have a rival, and now it's like the two of them were, I think, kind of angling for them to be rivals. And then we had the six-man tag where he looked amazing, at the dash. So again, it's like I think with a guy like Oiwa, who's just rock solid, doesn't really have a lot of personality right now, but like you were saying, like with Yuto Ice, bland as fuck, just like generic MMA guy, a young lion dude when he was Yuta Nakashima. And the Yuto Ice thing, I mean, again, I guess if you were watching WXW or whatever he was doing in England, maybe it made more sense. But, for those of us that just like, off he went and then he came back, like the Yuto Ice thing was like mind blowing. And I think, there's a couple guys that were just like that. This is going to sound weird. Jacob Austin Young, who could not have been more anodyne since he's been in this company for like the last year and a half.
Hmm.
I mean, you watch his backstage comments, and they're just like prosaic as hell, like nothing interesting at all. To the point where I started wondering if the point is he's like, going out of his way not to be interesting. And now that like he's been teaming with Callum, and there's actually been like a more focused effort on United Empire, he's actually been really interesting in the backstage comments, and he's interfering in matches, and he's being a dickhead, and he's stealing Hiromu's jacket, and it's
Well, he's
like,
been given some creative direction, which is important for these
right.
guys.
And it's like, okay, he actually does have a personality. He was just holding back. I actually don't think Oiwa has a personality. I think that's something that he's going to actually have to learn to do. I think he's just a straightforward guy, but that can also work for him. But like you said, some guys it's just going to take a little bit of time. I mean, I know we'll probably talk about him soon. The biggest thing that they did to fuck over Ren Narita was tell people this is the new Shibata without the 20 something years of time that Shibata spent building up
Yeah.
Shibata. Like
The completely
there's
unearned, like, cosplay Shibata.
there is nothing to substitute time. Time is the biggest indicator of significance there is. Like, and sometimes you just need to go through it. And I listen, like you said, Oi was still fucking great. I mean, he's a great wrestler. He's like an A minus wrestler. He'd be, the workhorse of any card, any promotion of the world.
Hmm.
To be that
And
top
he's
guy here,
27.
yeah, I mean, it's gonna just take time. Right, and he's one of those really young guys who got into the dojo super young. So yes, so I 100% agree with you.
And then the other guy, now you talked about this, like, one of the reasons that I think they went through a 2-year transition period was in part because they tried with Shota Umino and failed. He wasn't ready for that role. And I think
Right.
that if he had been, at last year's Wrestle Kingdom, if he had been hot and won the title and things like that,
Hmm.
things would be different. But he wasn't. And
No.
he basically spent the last year kind of floating around and kind of being this burden to the company because he was a push commodity that clearly had the company was still somewhat high on, but he really
Hmm.
just wasn't over at all.
Right.
However, in the last
Yeah.
few months,
Yeah.
this tag team with Yuya Uemura
Hmm.
has, and you could say maybe it's just the greatness of Uemura, and certainly this little feud they've had with the Naka brothers has certainly helped. But
Yep.
suddenly you can see like the light at the end of the tunnel for like Shota Umino. Like it just doesn't feel like he's not going to be dead weight forever. Like this could be a way for him to earn something back in this company after, failing, which is very difficult to
Oh
do
yeah.
to get the push and fail.
Well, of course. And you know, I'm not gonna deny, like, it was not a good 2024 for Shota Umino, which is really unfortunate because I think, yes, he did fail. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But I think the company failed him more than he
2025.
failed. Well, yeah, but even going back to like the push going
Yeah,
into
yeah,
Wrestle
yeah.
Kingdom,
Okay, yeah.
And even going back to that New Japan Cup where he got mired down with the scapegoat. And like, I don't know, they just made a bunch of decisions where, again, I'm not gonna say that like Shota was blowing the doors off from that point on, but it's like he comes into that New Japan Cup and it feels like he's course corrected, right? He's figured it out. And then I really think the thing that killed him was the Moxley stuff. Like, number one, you had him wrestle Moxley in America, which I think was a massive mistake. I don't know who Moxley could have defended against otherwise, but having, that wrestling Otaku defense be Ren Narita instead of Shota, I think was a huge mistake.
I
And I
had
think
wiped the
that
match out of my mind.
unfortunately I had to watch it for this evil stuff, and it was just as dire as you'd expect. But, like I think that did damage to Shota because it's like, the whole thing was Shota's going through this crisis confidence deal, right? Or confidence crisis, whatever. But like the thing that's causing him to vacillate so much isn't around. Like it's this AEW stuff, and this isn't even like an anti-AEW thing. It's just if your character's like acting so weird in a way that fans can't get behind, they're not getting behind it because you can't tangibly feel or see what he's so distraught about. So he just comes across like a whiny bitch. And then he gets to the G1 and it's even worse. And then then he doesn't win the G1. He has a losing record, but he still gets a title shot. You know what I mean? Like I think they failed him there where I don't know, it's very frustrating to me to even if they weren't necessarily ready, it felt like they didn't actually commit to that match. Like if you wanted it to be Zack Sabre Jr. versus Shota Umino, have Shota Umino win the fucking G1 and stop
Yeah,
with
have
this
him earn it,
nonsense.
like
Yeah,
with
enough
the.
of this. Yeah, enough of this King of Pro Wrestling nonsense. The G1 winner goes to the Wrestle Kingdom main event. We need to get back to that because Shota was dead in the water because it's like, you're gonna do this thing, right? Where at least like this year, Suji felt like an actual challenger, even if he didn't win the G1. But Shota needed that credibility, and they didn't give
Mhm.
it to him, and he's still acting like a baby. And the thing that really like turned me on it was actually Lowell. So like he gets booed at Osaka, and then the company really doesn't do anything with it, and they just kind of leave him hanging there with it. So me and my friend at the Lowell show were trying to get everybody to boo Shota, and nobody was really going for it because I don't think they cared either way. And then he had like Moxley video played at the end of his match. And at the end, Shota just goes nuts and just tells Moxley to go fuck himself. And the crowd got into him. And it was like, that's what they wanted to see. Now, coming back around after all that nonsense I just said, it's exactly what you're saying. Like, Shota went through that hell, and then he, like, had to shave his hair because Great Khan fucked with him. And then he comes back immediately and almost wins the New Japan Cup, which was fucking weird. But then, like, he's got this thing with Uemura, and Uemura is kind of such a goofball. Shota comes across as kind of like this bemused vet almost, and I think it's done a lot for Shota's character. And whether people are booing him or not, or they're cheering him, I think like Shota just needs to show conviction, and now he is. So I agree with you again. I think Shota's gonna be fine because I
I
think
just feel like
he's
this.
back to what he was.
I just feel like there's an intensity with these tag matches in particular that are being worked at that he
Mhm.
himself has struggled to work at that kind of level of intensity.
Well,
Um,
and part of that's Yuto Ice.
yeah, I think a
You
big
know,
part of that is for whatever reason, Yuto, which one of the reasons I'm so high on him is that he's able to get these performances out of people.
yep. Well, I mean, I think that's one thing that you can look at the last few years of New Japan and say that they're lacking. They were lacking somebody with that intensity. Ishii,
And it's kind of
he's
hilarious.
off
It's
half the
Yuto.
time,
It's kind of hilarious. It's Yuto Ice too.
Oh
Like,
yeah, didn't see it coming at all. And I think, I don't know if we're going to talk about the juniors, but I think that's one of the things the junior division's missing right now is that, you know, I mean, obviously Doki's the champion, which has not been working at all. And nobody wants to see Doki in House of Torture, and nobody really accepts it. The crowds don't really respond to it. Unless it's Despy. Despy got the crowd going. But it's like, I love it. I'm not one of those like, I don't equate junior wrestling with lucha, which I think a lot of people seem to do. But you've got a division with El Desperado, who's like a leg technician. You got Taiji Ishimori, who's an arm technician. You've got the Robbie Eagles, who's a leg technician. And it's like, where's the intensity? They need a Yuto Ice in that division. It's just some like rabid guy. It was Hiromu, but broke his neck and he couldn't do that anymore. So Yuto Ice, at least for now, is that guy in the heavyweights. And you see the results. It's been catalytic for the whole division.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back to that match at New Beginning between all four guys, really, and it felt like, and it's very strange because for throughout much of Gato's booking tenure, the tag team division has been a complete overlooked
Oh,
aspect of it.
awful.
It's usually like, oh, it's Guerrillas of Destiny or
Ugh. Good
like
brothers.
the Good Brothers, TMDK, like Taven and Bennett. It's just like it's kind of just like it's very mid card. It's very little, but historically, you know, having two like kind of top-ish singles guys tag teaming and forming a tag team has been, a pillar for not just New Japan but pro overall throughout its history.
Oh, sure. I mean,
You know,
even not top guys. I mean, I kind of feel like that division got corrected the last 2 years or 3 years because of Bishamon, right? And it
Bishamon,
was
yeah.
just those guys had
Yeah,
nothing to
and
do.
that
So,
also stood out because those two guys were like two of the best guys on the roster. That was kind of depreciating before our eyes. Um, but you feel that getting built up again with,
hmm
strangely enough, Yuto Ice and Oscar, but
yeah,
Umino and Uemura really rising to that challenge where it's like, okay, these are guys who can go out there in the tag title match that's working second from the top and outshine everyone else on the roster, including the main events.
sure. Oh, yeah,
Um,
and they did.
and it's, the added benefit is that I think it's definitely helping both Yumino and Uemura, I think, in different ways. It's
hmm
helping, I think, further establish Uemura as a top guy, which is kind of funny when you think about it being a tag team, but I feel like he comes across as like a top guy,
Oh, yeah.
working these kind of matches, and then it's helping Umino connect back with the audience.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
100%. Even if some of them are booing him, it's like that's still,
yeah.
you know, the funny thing about that Wrestle Kingdom thing was that Osaka booed him and nobody else really did. And I just wonder, like New Japan didn't they didn't like there's ways to do it, right? I mean, it's wrestling. You can get crowds to respond how you want. And it just kind of felt like you were saying, like that Wrestle Kingdom match felt like such a nothing. And it's like now he's getting a response,
Hmm.
whatever it is. And I think I think he's much more capable now to take advantage of it.
Right. Do you want to talk about United Empire, or do you want to talk about House of Torture
Yes.
and Aaron Wolf?
Oh God. Um, well, United Empire, I'm so happy with what they've done there. That's
Are
like
you
the A plus.
surprised? Are you surprised that like it's like they're keeping the United Empire branding and that this is going to be like United Empire is back basically under new ownership
hmm
and is going to be seemingly pushed as the dominant faction, at least certainly the dominant heel faction in the company.
It is a bit weird, but I do have to. Okay, so I gotta say, like, you know, I think you read my stuff. I think the only people that actually read my stuff are Voices of Wrestling people. I think wrestlers don't read my stuff at all. So I have no. I'm saying this because like I have no sources or anything. Like it's just whatever trickles out of like the people that actually do talk to people. So I had no clue. Besides, when I wrote the primer, the last 2 years when I've written the primer, I've tried to keep it fairly neutral, no real editorializing. But this year I added a bunch of sections at the beginning, just sort of looking back at 2025. Just a year in review, and then a look ahead to 2026. So a new flavor after, doing this thing for a few years. And the whole reason I did that was because I wanted the very first thing for people to look for in 2026 to be Callum Newman because he was so fucking great in 2025. And really, late 2024, I mean, before he hurt his knee, he was having a really good World Tag League. And like him during World Tag League last year, it's just like, okay, he's got it. He's there. This is the new superstar. He just like elevated himself like to the top floor immediately. Like just an unbelievable, like just jump. And I think that, I mean, I'd imagine that the United Empire thing is just so that when he has the match with Osprey, right, it just still has the United Empire sort of connections.
Mhm. Because to me, it's like we've
So,
talked about this before. Like they've kept, Bullet Club going for a super, super long time. And they kept LIJ going for a really long time too. And like you could make a case, especially like in the case of Bullet Club, like like the branding and the merchandise is still valuable for them to keep that around even as talent shuffles in and out of the company.
mhm.
Um, and like United Empire, is Osprey's group, and then Osprey leaves, and they kind of have this basically entire year where they're a group where they don't really have a defined leader.
Oh, 2 years.
And yeah, you're right, like a year and a half or so.
It's
Um,
ridiculous.
and so it's kind of confusing, and it's like so, but now we're back, we're revamping it basically. Um, so like you still have Hanare and Okan who are like I guess original members. Um,
Yeah, I would count Hanari.
yeah. And then so and Newman is now getting the push alongside Jake Lee, I guess,
Right. Well,
as like
s yeah.
I heard so I heard some people have said that like oh like Lee isn't really the leader, Callan Newman is the leader. But I was like, well, then why did Jake Lee get the world title match? Like,
Right. No, that's no, because I mean, New Japan has very strict hierarchies, even when they've been very sloppy the last several years. You know, Jake Lee is the leader. He
yeah.
doesn't have the character of somebody who would be the leader. I'm not really a fan of the like performatively weird, you know, like wacky Harlequin deal that he's doing and the fucking glove and but it was over on the Road to shows. It just didn't work in Osaka. But yeah, that's another one where I thought that the company did the wrestlers wrong because I think like we're talking about, guys needing time. Like this character that he's portraying, which is so demonstratively peculiar about everything, that doesn't seem like a character where you're like, let's give this guy a world title shot like a month after he returns and starts doing this thing. Like that seems to be the kind of character that you want to sort of grow slowly, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to go back to like his entire existence in New Japan, which is he comes in to the company with like, and he's, pe I guess like people are familiar with him. Like I was familiar with him, from his work in All Japan and his work at Noah,
Hmm.
but mainly his work in All Japan. Um, but I guess, a lot of fans are maybe seeing him for the first time, and he has like, remember he was the smart bastard, and he,
Oh yeah, all
uh,
monocled up.
yeah, and he wore a monocle, and it was like, and then he seemed like he was going to get a big push and then suffer some, a pretty significant injury, and then he goes away,
Yeah,
and now he comes back, and he's a different character,
right.
and it's like very like, kind of whiplash, where it's like, wait, wasn't this guy in the company briefly earlier doing something else? It's just like
Hmm.
very, very little time to establish himself. Not that I think that Jake Lee establishing himself is going to mean anything like long term. I just think this is who he is. Um,
But to give him a world title shot like immediately just seems very strange for like just like if he came back as the smart bastard, maybe that would be different. But this character, this is not the guy you give like an immediate title shot to, especially in Osaka,
yeah.
especially for Suji. And like Suji's first defense in Osaka, he needed to be somebody with that sort of energy. Like, I mean, compare this Osaka crowd to the, I mean, I know it's not technically fair, but like if you look a year ago and you look at that Goto Saber match, and I know that there's
Yeah.
a lot going into that match that made it special, but like this is the same city, the same crowd, the same building that every year is like their best venue. Always in the G1, their best venue, always throughout the year, usually their most raucous crowd. And they were not raucous during that main event. And I don't think they
No.
had any reason to be.
I mean,
And I
I
don't want to blame them. I just think it was too soon for that match.
I watched the match like unspoilered, didn't know what happened in it, didn't know what people were saying about the match. And I watched it and I thought the crowd doesn't give a fuck about Jake Lee.
Yeah.
All of
I
his
mean, it was
weird
fine, but
glove putting on stuff is like that
oh,
is odd and not
he
connecting
did
with
it
the
tw
crowd.
he did it twice.
I know.
A
And it
new
was kind of
glove.
all of like the fears one would have with the Jake Lee main event push. But
Which is funny
I
because
thought
like,
the closing stretch of the match was really good. And
yeah,
Jake
it
Lee's
was.
chest just turns like completely purple.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and towards the end of the match, it's just these guys like beating the shit out of each other. And by the end of the match, I was like, that was pretty good. Like I think it suffered from Jake Lee's lack of charisma, but as a
Sure.
wrestling match, like in a vacuum, it was quite enjoyable. Now, Dave, it's really funny because Dave never is critical anymore about anything in WWE or AEW in terms of the match quality. Really.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like if you read the Observer,
Oh,
he's
that,
always like very polite, even for stuff that's not very good, which
huh.
I'm saying mainly for like he totally like overrates and inflates like bad WWE stuff to get it to respect the level because I think he doesn't want to get dragged on Twitter for rating something 1 star. That deserves it. Um,
Yeah, he
like
softened with age.
AEW pay-per-view matches rarely have like just real shit that like needs to be like annihilated. He destroyed this Jake Lee Shingo Takagi match. It was like
Really?
reading an Observer from 1991 and he's talking about like a Sid Vicious main event. Like
Wow.
he was like 10 minutes of Jake Lee doing nothing, awful, horrible. He gave it like 1 star. Like he
Wow.
destroyed that match. Um
Yeah, I mean, just to give a little background, so I've had a real rough 3 weeks because, like, just to give a little insight and a little preview, I didn't watch every match, but I skipped through every single Evil match, which ends up being like 150 matches. And during that, so like I'm up till like 3, 4 in the morning every night. And I
yeah.
kind of like fell asleep. And obviously, like New Beginning was during the week because
Did
it's
in
a
any of those
Japanese holiday.
matches did they do a spot where Evil put a um steel chair around someone's neck while they were standing up and then like hit
Yeah.
it with another steel chair? Did you see that spot at all?
You know what? If that's what you're interested in, I have a stat for that. I have a few stats for
How
that
many
actually.
times did Dick Togo come out with the grow wire during an Evil match?
See, you're bringing this up, but that's actually the reason why I was doing this. I actually had about seven
Why are
minutes to
you
go
doing this to
through.
yourself?
I counted how many times they flip somebody upside down and did a
No.
chop to their grundle. I
We
counted
need
how
a
many times.
if this is true, if you're not playing like you need to have an intervention.
No, I literally, I could send you
Oh,
straight
why are
from
you
my
doing this to yourself,
Remarkable.
Jan Michael? I'm gonna have to take a visit out to Springfield.
I'll gladly treat you to some red rose. But oh, the other thing, so I actually ended up having to go through the matches a second time because I kind
Why?
of
Why? A second time.
because it's my belief, and my assertion is that Evil did get pretty good the last year or so, and I wanted to feel like, is it just a feeling or is there a reason? And I think the reason, I'm giving away my article, but I think the reason is that he started using the Scorpion Deathlock again, and he started using it at strategic points of the match much better. So I went back and I actually pinpointed the times that he used the Scorpion Deathlock and how long he had it on each guy, and at what percentage of the match it happened. Which also I did that for ref bumps. So you're going to get a ref bump count, and then like there's a particular point in the match that he that they do the ref bumps as well. So be on the lookout for that coming soon.
This is
Maybe in the next two
disturbing.
or three
This I
weeks.
don't know if I want to read this anymore. This is
You know what? This was
encourage. That would
five
be
years of our
encourage.
lives.
That would
I'm giving it the
encourage.
respect.
It's encouraging really what I would consider to be very unhealthy behavior. It's watching all this evil matches.
But during this process, because New Beginning was on a Japanese holiday and it was on like a Tuesday or Wednesday, I was like, I'm not watching this. I'll watch it when I get home from work. And then I kind of like fell asleep and I woke up to 2 points of the thing. Like I woke up and then the first thing I saw was Ren Narita right after he beat Aaron Wolf. And I was like, uh-oh, that's not getting any reaction. That's not good. And then I fell asleep again. And then I woke up like a third of the way through
Did
the
you think
title
you had,
match.
do you think you were just having a nightmare when you saw Ren Narita beat Aaron Wolf?
No, no, maybe years ago, but it's kind of what I just expected at this point. Especially going through, I mean, maybe I felt like I was in a fever dream because basically my life has been evil in House of Torture. But I woke up again during the title match and I was like, oh no, like this is not getting over at all. Like to the point where I actually looked to see if it actually was in Osaka. And I was like, I think this is supposed to be in Osaka, but like this is not Eddie on. Like they're not responding at all.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like
Are
what you just said though, because I went back
they
and
at the
watched the
Sun
whole
Plaza Hotel where they have like the G1 shows without
or
commentary?
like Makahara Messi number 13.
Yeah.
And I went back and watched the whole match, and it's the exact same thing that you just said. I was like, you know what? This isn't so bad of a match. And, the crowd was quiet at times. They never really got truly like boisterous, but I think there was a low level of kind of like, cheering and chanting and the usual calling during the match. So like I wouldn't say it's a dud. I wouldn't like, go as far as Dave did. But I mean, if you're really into the Jake Lee thing right now, and some people are, and I think you had every reason to be because it looked like, people were into it at the Road 2 shows, and he was doing interesting stuff. I just think it was just too soon for this match. And,
Yeah, I just think
like, unfortunately, Jake Lee has a track record of this, though.
yes, which is part of the problem, which is someone that's pretty familiar with this work, dating back to, him finally getting a big push in All Japan and starting Eclipse and like they All Japan at the time like really needed another guy besides Kento Miyahara to kind of be a top guy, and Jake Lee was as good of a candidate as any as they had at the time, and that just didn't work because he
Hmm.
wasn't a top guy, and then he continues to kind of fail upwards to Noah and
Yeah.
now New Japan. Um, I got a problem. My problem with Jake Lee really begins for this incarnation of Jake Lee was like at I'm pretty sure it's New Year's Dash. Like they have this. I forget. It must have been a 6 or 8 man tag because
Hmm.
um, Jake Lee's tagging with Hanare and Okan, and Hanare and Okan like look great. They're going out there, they're kicking ass. They both this is like motivated Okan. I think it's good for Okan to be around Hanare because I think it keeps Okan from some of his more like goofy comedic tendencies.
Sure.
Um, and I'm like, and they get the pin, and they both are like looking into the camera, and they just got these scowls on their faces, and I'm like, yeah, these are like these two big, believable, ass-kicking dudes. This is kind of what I want to see in my New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then
Yeah.
they cut to the outside, and Jake Lee is sitting cross-legged,
Yeah.
crisscross applesauce like a kindergartner on
Yep.
the outside of the ring, and he's got the world championship, and he's like weirdly fondling it with his hands, and
Yes.
like I don't know if you listen to English commentary or Japanese commentary or whatever, but
I generally listen to Japanese, but I have been listening to more
yeah.
because, not to get too far off here, just very quickly, I think Chris Charlton needed a couple years to get the Kevin Kelly isms out of his system because like
So
Kevin Kelly was so bad. But the English commentary has been excellent.
so I really like Walker and Chris together. I think
Yeah,
they're both really, really good at the jobs. They unfortunately have to sell some like the angles that are not always good, like any commentator has to do.
right. Yeah.
And like they're having to sell like, and Walker's like, oh, that's look at Jake Lee, it's disgusting. He's touching the belt with his dirty hands, and I'm like, are his hands dirtier than anyone else's? He's wearing gloves some of the time,
He
so his
wears
hands are probably
gloves.
actually more sanitary than the average wrestler's hands, I would imagine. But it's
That's
just
true.
like occasionally they have to go. They're trying to sell the angle, and God bless them for trying to call these House of Torture matches where they have to talk about what a travesty of justice this is for the 10,000th time. Um, but it was like kind of like okay, on one hand we have Hanari and Okan who are like just like come across as like really believable ass kickers
Right.
that you wouldn't want to mess with. And on the other hand, you have Jake Lee doing whatever this is on the outside. And that's the
Performative
guy that's
weirdness.
like getting a push and we're supposed to be excited about seeing in the main events of a major show next month. And he's also like it's like you said, he's just kind of starting this character right now. He's not
Yeah.
like had like 6 months to kind of build towards this, which would make it, maybe a little bit more palpable and he would get over more with the audience. And this was rushed quickly, and it was just a reminder after like a really successful Wrestle Kingdom and a overall fun a New Year's Dash show that
Hmm.
this is a company that still sometimes makes some puzzling creative choices with who they're choosing to push and kind of how they choose to present those people that they're pushing.
Yeah, and it is a bit weird, like you're saying, because I've been thinking about this a little bit too, because like, all right, so like, we've revamped United Empire. And I'm thinking about like, what do they do going forward? And like you were saying, it seems like Hanari and Okan might be picking up where they left off when Hanari got hurt.
And they're a
But
great asset for like this new, much more interesting tag team division.
oh yeah, and it's kind of like what you're saying. Hanari and Okan as tag team, it actually harkens back. Like I don't know how you remember when United Empire first formed, before they even had any other members, when it was just Osprey and Okan. And their first feud after Wrestle Kingdom, because I think it was Osprey Okada, and then they went straight into this program with Tenzan and Kojima. Do you remember that?
Not really. I'm sure I watched the matches at the time.
It was fucking great. The way that they built it was that they did like this string of like no contests where, Kojima and Tenzan just got so fed up with these two that
Well, was
it
this
just
during
became
the
like a,
was this during the period
yeah,
where
it was
like
like
they had like the match for the right to use the Mongolian chop?
that's right. So it ended up unfortunately going to that. But like it was like this chaotic thing, but they were like they like you said, they were like these ass kickers that were just doing this really like intense stuff. And they kind of got away from that. And you see the elements of that, but you know, there's also Jake Lee there. And again, I like what Jake Lee's doing. It's just, too soon for this. But yeah, like I said, it's a bizarre choice.
Yes.
Just like
And now you
just like
kind of
just like
have they're definitely Newman is kind of like the big winner so far of like this roster turnover
oh yeah.
in terms of this is
Oh
a
yeah.
guy they're going to push in. I mean, really interesting year he has last year where his almost like his career starts when Cobb decides he's going to WWE and he's
Yep.
essentially backs out of um was it Dominion? No, it wasn't
I
Dominion.
think it
It
was
was
Tentaku.
yeah, it was Dontaku. And they kind of like just press Newman into duty and he has the main event match with Goto. Um which overachieves and it kind of
Oh yeah.
I think it kind of like changes I think some people's perceptions of Newman. I've always been on the optimistic side with him in terms of like his youth and what he brings to the table. I think there's some people that were kind of
Hmm.
frustrated that he was getting spots on the card when he was so young. But I think now people can see the vision with that.
Oh,
Um,
he's my favorite wrestler in the company right now. I mean, pretty easily. Besides Yuya. And
he's the only
by the
wrestler in the
way,
company that was in Tottenham Hotspur's youth system. So he's got a leg up
That's
with that
true.
for me.
And again, he's 23. Like it's insane how far he's come in the last year. He's
Imagine
23.
how good Callum Newman is going to be when he's Ryohei Oiwa's age.
Well, we'll see what company he's in.
I was gonna say he's probably not going to be in New Japan, but you never know. He could be.
If I kind of like, I do like, I mean, there's some guys who I think just need to go. My main idea is like, don't leave until like they're begging for you to come, right? So like Kenny Omega was great. Like he stuck around when he probably could have left. God, I mean, Cena was trolling people that, Omega was coming to WWE like after the first Okada match, right? And like there's guys like Kevin Knight, for instance, who I fucking love. I thought he was like progressing so much,
Hmm.
but I knew that they were never going to push him fast enough, right? Like
Yeah.
there was no reason for him to stick around because they were
This
going to
once
take
these
like
guys start popping up on Dynamite kind of randomly,
yeah.
the
Well, again,
time is short.
like if Kevin Knight was still in New Japan, right? In the last year and a half, he'd probably be in the same spot. Like I don't think they would have put the title on him. They would probably like put the title on him like 2 years from now. So there's no reason for him to stick around.
Yeah. Well, he
And
was
obviously,
always did they never stopped? They never moved him out of the junior division, right?
no, he was maybe on the cusp, but
Yeah, he might
he,
have
he was
worked
still in the
like
gym.
some uh like was he in New Japan Cup last year or something? Like he started kind of loitering uh
I mean, he
in that
wrestled
scene.
Finlay at that Lowell show I went to.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but like with him, it's like okay, they'll probably end up doing it, but you're gonna have to wait so long, you might as well just go. And from what I hear, like they've actually been doing stuff with him in AEW, which I'm
I
glad
mean,
because I love him
he had a
stuff.
great 2025, no matter which way you slice it.
He's good,
He I not
but like
I knew he was I was high on him as a signing just because I think that they have a lot AEW has a lot of young athletic high flyers, but they do not but Knight really stands out because of his New Japan training and his
yes.
fundamentals and I mean he has a tag team with Mike Bailey that has had
Oh,
been
that's
really
cool.
really good in AEW
Ooh, that's an interesting
this year.
pairing. That actually is kind of interesting. But
Yeah.
but so he had to leave. With Callum Newman, I think like they clearly see something, and I think Osprey they clearly listen to Osprey, right? So I think like Callum Newman could probably leave next year if he wanted to. Right? He could probably leave this year if he really wanted to. I think he should stay at least like he's 23. So yeah, like probably what you're saying, like 27 or 28. I think if like I know 5 years sounds like, like an eternity, but I think like in 5 years, I think 5 years from now he'll have an IWGP run under his belt, and both companies are just going to be throwing money at him.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough
But
because if he takes off at any point, if
right,
he, if he takes off at any point as an individual star, the offers are going to come in.
and that's where I think because like I feel a little bit better about Callum Newman, just because he is Osprey's guy, right? And Osprey, in generally the same point. I mean, Newman's kind of a couple years ahead of him age-wise, but Osprey could have left, how many years before he did, but he stuck around, and I think he just waited for the right time to leave and accomplish as much as he can in New Japan. So I would imagine, Newman would have Osprey in his ear telling him like, you know, don't go that first year where everybody wants you. Don't even go that second year where everybody's begging you. Wait it out and get as much as you can out of New Japan and enjoy Japan while you can.
Well, you also can build yourself up as a bigger star
Of
too.
course.
Like
Well, and
Osprey,
also,
we were talking about Osprey. Like Osprey took the time to become a big star in Japan. So when he did go to America and worked for AEW, he was brought in at basically the highest level as a top guy right away,
of course.
which
Yeah,
wouldn't
and
have
and
happened if he made that jump years earlier.
no, and I would also say, I don't know if Osprey said this, but I would say it. Enjoy working in a place where you can be an internationally recognized guy and you can make, however much you can make in Japan these days and be a like famous wrestler and have great matches and be critically acclaimed, but not have to be at a place which is a television product. I mean, I think that's New Japan's strength is that it's like the one major company, I mean, I guess, besides CMLL, that isn't a television company, right? They're still
Hmm.
based on house shows and matches and stuff like that. And I would say like enjoy that while you can too.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, um, I think like it's really hard for the American television model, professional wrestling company to like develop talent and have people improve. You kind of have to
Right.
be to a degree a finished product, especially as like an in-ring wrestler by the time you make that jump. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for you to stand out.
Oh,
Um,
I can't remember how we got off on this, but Callum Newman A plus. If I'm giving out grades, he's an A plus.
he's the Prince of Pace.
No, oh, not anymore. He's just the prince.
I'm still going to call him the Prince of Pace because I think that's a cool name.
I didn't
And
realize he has a crown on his wrist though.
yeah,
That was a weird spot.
I like saying pace. It's a very British term for saying someone runs fast. They have great pace. Um, Ren Narita. Ren Narita
Oh,
defeats
yeah,
Aaron Wolf in the
yeah.
um I said I watched the show without spoilers, which is not entirely true because I did see one brief spoiler before I watched the show, which was that I heard someone say Gato did the dumbest thing he could possibly do. Which, when I read that, I thought, okay, Aaron Wolf lost to Ren Narita in stereotypical fashion, which is in fact
Yes.
exactly what happened. And I think this was the fear that a lot of people had post Wrestle Kingdom, which was so Wrestle Kingdom in terms of like the presentation of Aaron Wolf, I think was a Grand Slam home run in terms
Oh,
of
yes.
he comes out, the crowd really bought into him, which was important because it's very hard for like us Americans to really understand what level of celebrity like Aaron Wolf was in Japan. Like we can get told, oh, he's an Olympic hero. He won gold medal judo at the, Tokyo Games, and that's judo is such an important sport. But like, it's really hard for me to understand like, just exactly like does the average person know who Aaron Wolf is? How is he viewed as a star? It was very clear when he came out at Wrestle Kingdom that that audience was like, this guy is a big, big star and they laid out the
Yes.
match really well. And they did do
Hmm.
all the House of Torture interference, but Aaron Wolf overcomes it, beats up all those dorks, and pins Evil and wins the never open weight title. And like, okay, Grand Slam home run.
Hmm.
And then the issue becomes, I don't want to say like they completely undid all of that, but they essentially do, right? Ren Narita comes out, all the geeks run in, they Dick Togo comes out with the wire, like they play all the
Yeah.
hits, and then he just gets pinned. And he loses the
Yeah.
never open weight title, and it's
Just
just
it's like climactic.
inexplicable, and it's so frustrating because you could see it happening, like you could see this as a possibility, like the way that you could see like I don't know, like I don't know if my dog like got into some food that you didn't want them to get into, and then you're like, oh man, I hope the dog doesn't shit on the floor. Like I feel like the dog it might shit on the floor because it got into that food, but I hope that doesn't happen. That was essentially this Gato booking for Aaron Wolf, which is like, oh, I hope they don't just continue the House of Torture thing, and they did that, and not only was beating Aaron Wolf like really kind of inexplicable and frustrating, but the long, long national nightmare of the evil House of Torture and just the constant run-ins and the boring, tired finishes to all of his matches. We were kind of hoping that we were going to get past that with Evil leaving, you know, New Japan, and now it just seems like we're just going to do the same thing, but Ren Narita is going to be Evil instead, and
Right.
that is just unacceptable as a fan.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I mean, I don't watch these shows live, which helps. So I can skip
Yeah.
any House of Torture match. But The problem with that is I can skip those matches. So I personally am not witnessing them. But you have people like Aaron Wolf who end up being victimized by this.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I think, again, I am writing this article about evil, and I've spent an insane amount of time thinking about evil and researching evil. And it's not going to be, I mean, I'm thinking of the title. I'm trying not to be too pretentious about it, but it's not going to be like a condemnation of evil, and it's not going to be like some sort of like, you know, canonization of evil either, right? I mean, it's just more nuanced than that. It really is. I mean, not to you. You just told me flat out he sucks. But besides that,
Yeah, I was talking to J. Michael and I was like, "Hey, you want to do my show?" And he's like, "I gotta do all this. I'm writing this huge thing on evil. Like, I'm doing all this research." And then I was like, I just responded like, "He sucks. That's the end of the research." But
that's it.
I told you this before we were on air. Thinking about it, we talked a little bit about it, and I said, I actually like evil. Like, I don't think was bad at his job. Like
No,
his what he was asked to do. I never thought, man, Evil sucks at this. I just
no,
didn't
and
like what he stood for and what this booking pattern was, and I don't think
yeah,
anyone does.
well, the funny thing about how the article and how this all came about was like, you know, uh, credit needs to go to Joel and not anybody else. He's the one that broke it, that Evil was leaving, and it was like right after those first Korikens, right? So like I think the 19th I think was the tag match, and then the
Hmm.
20th was Despy and Doki, and then I think like the day after or 2 days after, Joel threw this out there, and I was like, all right, I got to write something about this. And I'm like, so Joel, when is his last match? And he's like, he's had it. He's done. Like, that's it. So I went back and I looked and I'm like, you can't even tell. It's unbelievable. Like, one of the things I'm going to talk about is like, Evil's professionalism is crazy because he spent 5 years doing this stuff. And like, we never heard anything about his personal life. We technically don't really know what his relationship with Io Shirai is. We don't know anything about him. We never heard any gossip about him. So like when he's leaving, and like the one that stood out to me was this tweet from Jado. I don't know if you saw it, but it was like just him and Evil just sort of like at a restaurant together. And I realized like that's the first time we've seen anything like that from Evil in like his entire House of Torture run. Like this guy, like he just showed up, did the job, and you didn't hear anything about anything. Like he was kayfabe to the max. And unfortunately, Ren Narita, as we're gonna see over the next however many months or years, is not that guy. And I hope he can grow into that guy. But Ren Narita, they really fucked him over with the mini Shibata nonsense. They had something going during that like 1 month that he was in that Fujoshi bait tag team with Shota Umino. And then they broke him up and put him in House of Torture. And like people just don't respond to his stuff. They don't respond to his finisher. He's got like four finishers and they all suck dick. Nobody cares about anything when he does them. He doesn't get any reaction. Um, he's an unbelievable seller. Like he might be the best seller in the company. He's unbelievable at that. But I just have not seen any spark. Like even Evil at his worst, there would be stretches where you're like, oh right, this was that like upper mid Carter in Lij that threw a million lariats and still did the Evil home run by the way, even back then. But just had these kind of never style matches. And I just don't see like where's that Ren Narita that we saw in the Super Juniors as a young lion, where he was just so great, or he was so great on Excursion. And like we just haven't seen that in any iteration yet. And for him, like I think you saw it, like Evil was able to get what Evil got out of Aaron Wolf. No, not even in the match, just in the atmosphere and the crowd response, and it just like it was a brilliant pairing. It really was. It was brilliant booking. This is the exact opposite. This is not what Aaron Wolf needs right now. And I don't know if people are going to be so interested in the chase. Like, who's he chasing? Somebody that nobody gives a fuck about. And where's the ending? Is it gonna be at Dominion on, TV Asahi, where it's gonna air on TV? I mean, maybe.
Well,
I mean, in some ways, this
part
might actually be doing more for Ren Narita than it is for Aaron Wolf,
oh,
which
it definitely is. He got the biggest win of his career.
I'm
He
not
beat
sure that's the direction we should be going.
I don't either. But and look, like even if Aaron Wolf beats Nenarita again, like what's the point? Aaron Wolf already beat Evil at the Tokyo Dome for the Never Openweight title. It's not going to get any bigger than that. And we've seen time and time again, like House of Torture will lose these matches and they just kind of reform like nothing happened to them.
Yeah, somehow they
And
come out ahead.
yeah, it's just I don't know. I mean, I don't want to do the House of Torture thing again, but just I can't believe that anyone tolerates the lack of creativity associated with this
Well,
group.
and you know what? That's the perfect way to put it because I think it's not that House of Torture do what they do. It's just that there's so little conviction or commitment to what they do, and that like what they're doing just isn't interesting. And
Well, and just
there's ways that they could do it.
any match associated with them, you're just waiting for the same exact story patterns to unfold.
Well, and also, I mean, they lose Evil for whatever that's worth. I mean, I think we'll see, at least by comparison, Evil's value. They also lose Sonata, who I know, like, obviously it's Sonata, but like, I really enjoyed this wacky fashionista Sonata, and now he's gone. And it's like, look at what we're left with in House of
Yeah, they
Torture
lost
right
their
now.
like credibility in terms of their guys.
Like, it's dire. Like, this is a faction with nobody
I
compelling.
think there are I think Don Foley is my least favorite wrestler that's in like any promotion that I actually watch.
I can give you a hot take on Don Fale, though. He is, I believe, one of the best backstage comic guys. And this might just be me, but I just find everything he says to be funny. Like there's he only talks for like 15 seconds, but there's something about the way he talks. He's just like, Oleg Boltin, you big motherfucker. Forget about it. And he does the forget about it now. Like forget about
He just I see him in the wrestling ring and I'm like it makes me uncomfortable because
it.
I'm just like this guy could not give less of a shit.
I know. And you know
Like,
what's sad about it? Like I don't listen, it was on a podcast, the wrestlers, I don't know how much of this is work, but I don't think they were lying here. Where like you remember that one G1 in like 2018 or 2019 where he came in and he was actually, by his standards somewhat thin. And they were like, "What the fuck are you doing? You got to gain all that back and then double it." And it's like he took to that. He took that directive. Like so, I feel bad for him because it's like he looks so unhealthy and they're forcing him to do it.
he
Although I don't know how
just,
much now they're forcing him to do it, but at one point they were forcing him to do it. And like he just like he can't even like
yeah,
God, there was one where like he did oh fuck it might have been something with Bolton last year. I mean, I had to watch all this stuff for the evil thing, and it was like he was supposed to like maybe take a choke slam or something, and he just kind of fell backwards.
yeah. One time
He's got no
I was
burst.
one time when I was working in a movie theater at the time, and we had this fridge refrigerator, and it wasn't like a giant refrigerator like you might have like in your house. It was like a small, like older refrigerator. And I had to move it we had like like a dolly, and you put the refrigerator on the dolly, and it's
Hmm.
really awkward and hard to turn and things like that. And I feel like Bad Luck Fale has the mobility of like the refrigerator on the dolly. Like it's just not like something that has any flexibility or movement, or he kind of needs to just be standing there and have someone else like run in and do a bump off of him.
Well, you know what it reminds me of? I've had to do a lot of research on dinosaurs lately. I mean, you probably can guess why, but um, and like, dinosaur research goes back and forth. So like when I was a kid, T-Rexes were like, you know, they were like these terrifying machines that could just run like at speed you couldn't imagine, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember like then like the science was like, oh, actually they probably moved differently, and it ended up being kind of like Don Foley, where they're just sort of like boom, 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 boom. And I think they've gone back the other way, but that's Don Foley. Like, let me ask you this: who's less mobile, Don Foley or Tomoaki Onma?
It's a good question. I'm gonna say Fale. I mean, part of it might just be like Hanma still like cosmetically looks okay.
Yeah, I think Foley too. I think it's
Like,
Foley.
um, yeah, like I'm trying to think like who are my least favorite wrestlers that I've had to watch. Uh, Gallows is in the club. Um,
Ugh,
in terms of just seeing him in the ring, and I'm like, guy doesn't want to do anything. Guy doesn't want to take any bumps. I mean,
right.
Roman Reigns and The Fiend are my least favorite wrestlers I think ever in terms of just like having to watch them do wrestling matches. But they're kind of in a league
Wow.
of their own. Like
Oh,
athletically,
that's
they're
right. We argued about this last time because I was like, "Oh, Roman Reigns got in the Hall of Fame, and I thought he deserved it." And you were like, "Shut the fuck up."
this is an anti. But like Roman as a wrestler, just like and Roman has is it's not like an issue with him like athletically or anything. It's just like he just doesn't give a shit about like he thinks he's like telling a story because he's standing in the ring and is super
Right.
lazy and doesn't want to do anything and hardly works any matches and but I don't really watch WWE so I can't really like but like Fale in terms of like I'm watching some New Japan I'm like oh man Don Fale trying to think there's probably some
Well,
other wrestlers I gotta think about like the All Japan and like Noah rosters too like all there's some
right.
guys
I
in All
mean, I'm
Japan that
sure,
I'm like
I'm sure there's some guys, but it's like they don't like,
yeah.
you know, I don't really.
Ray Saito is up there.
Ooh, okay.
Uh,
I don't know. I don't really enjoy like here's an example in comparison. Like I don't really enjoy watching Makabe in these tags, but
yeah.
Makabe's also earned the right to
Yes,
not
that's
give a
part of
fuck and
it.
not do, you know?
Yes, that's like I'm skipping a lot of Makabe matches, although I watched the New Beginning one because I was interested in Young Lions and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, there's a difference between I don't want to say like, oh, Makabe is a broken down veteran, so it's okay. I'm like, oh, I guess Fale is too, but like if Makabe was a career mid-carder, he wouldn't still like be wrestling these matches, I
No,
guess.
he wouldn't even be here.
Yes, he's there as like this is respect. Tenzan's the same way. It's like this is respect to you for
Oh,
being a
Tenzan,
big
man.
star.
Yeah, that's sad. I don't think we're gonna see him again.
But Aaron Wolf, like, you might have watched more of these Road 2 shows than I have.
Hmm.
Like, how have you seen him? Because again, these are House Torture matches, so I'm pressing the
Yep.
next match button on them anyway. Like, how have you seen his development post Wrestle Kingdom? Because some people are speculating like, and it kind of makes sense. Like, are they unhappy with his performance? Is this something they want to hit the
Hmm.
reset button on him by taking the title off of him?
Yeah, see, I think that's a valid question to ask, and it's a valid question always to consider. But I think you've got to understand that when it comes to House of Torture, okay, that it's always what they intended. Whatever they do with these guys, that's what they want to do. You know, House of Torture has been like their comfort blanket, and I think they truly believe that this is what the company needs on the card. And I think at some point they thought they had some vision that this was where wrestling was going to go.
It's the only explanation, really, that like Gato is
And
convinced that
listen,
this has to be there.
if it, and listen, I mean, there's a ton of nostalgia content and tons of nostalgia out there for that era, right? 80s, 70s, Memphis, territory stuff. If it worked, they would have been visionaries. But it didn't. It hasn't worked. Certainly not the way that they've done it. I mean, there's like no sincerity to it at all. Not in like a fun, ironic way either. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It just totally depends on the opponent. But like it didn't work. And I don't even think it's a good fit for this company where I mean, I've thought about this a lot, even before writing this article. Like, what made New Japan so popular in the 2010s wasn't heel face dynamics. to me, it's more like almost like an idol dynamic, right? Where you think about like anybody can have somebody support them, and you just have somebody and you support them.
Yes,
Obviously the one that
it
people
felt more like a
bring up,
sports team. Like these aren't
right?
good moral good versus evil. This is I like this guy because I think this guy's super cool. And it's like, well, I like Nakamura because I think he's super cool. Like it
Right.
wasn't
And
yes, that's
and
the
you know,
appeal.
they may be faces and heels, or it may be a heel face dynamic, but what's really driving people in is that they're just following people and supporting them to the point where, people talk about it all the time. The girl crying over Yoshihashi when Yoshihashi wasn't worth a fuck, right? But she had her guy, and like this is that idol, dynamic where, you're supporting this person and you want them to do well, and you're going to cheer them on, and whether they win or lose, right? And so it just seems kind of antiquated, but it also just doesn't seem like a good fit for this company. But they persist with it. They fully believe in it. And if they do something with them, that's what they intended. So it wasn't like, God, we got to get the title off this guy and have him chase. It's like, nope, this is going to be great. Aaron's going to win the title, and then Ren Narita's going to ruin everybody's time, and everybody's going to want to see Aaron Wolf just like stalk Ren Narita over the spring, and then everybody's going to watch on television to see him get his title back, blah, blah, blah. When honestly, I don't think they should have had the title involved to begin with. I don't know, that's a hot take, but I think putting the Never title on him from the very beginning might have backed themselves into a corner with a young lion, essentially.
I guess I think
But
like what everything I said about Bolton Oleg in terms of like him needing to be protected through booking, like and that's like it's like that sentiment, but like multiplied by like five with Aaron Wolf.
actually, I've been thinking about this. This is my big moment on this podcast that I was thinking about. So I want to bother people with Patriot stuff one last time. So they got Aaron Wolf, right? And wherever they are with him, they have to do certain stuff with him, right? Because they're not getting Wrestle Kingdom on television for 2 hours or whatever it was without
Hmm.
Aaron Wolf. They're not getting on Dominion on TV Asahi. I think it's taped, but still, it's going to be on prime time. They're not getting that without Aaron Wolf. It's all about him. He's in the situation and they have to run with it, whether he's ready for it or not. All right, I'm gonna bring this up, and I know you're probably not gonna like this, but Will Campbell. You know Will Campbell, don't you, Jesse?
Yes, of course.
You've heard that name a lot in the last week, haven't you, around here? He seems to
Honestly, I've kind
be,
of gone dark post Super Bowl, so not really, but yeah.
oh yes. Well, I love turning on the NBC Sports and seeing the Michael Felger and the Michael Hawley and the Tom E. Curran.
You just love torturing yourself. First the evil watch through watch through, and then when you're not doing that, you're watching Patriots hot takes.
I like Michael Hawley and I love Tom E.
I
Curran.
like Michael Hawley too. I should take that
Um,
back.
well, and like Ted Johnson and Phil Perry, it's a good media market.
Ted
And Felger I
Johnson's
can do without.
nose.
Oh my God. Was that a football thing or was he always like that?
No, that's gotta be a football thing. That's the nose of a
Uh,
guy who played inside linebacker for 15 years.
he's smart though. His analysis is smart. But Will Campbell is the Patriots left tackle, which obviously, anybody that wants to, sound smart at football, sound, whatever it is about how the left tackle is like so important because, most quarterbacks are, right-handed, so they're literally, protecting their back. And Will Campbell got his ass blown up from the very first play in that Super Bowl, or at least the very first, Patriots offensive play, that very first offensive drive. And I don't think it's outlandish to some people to say that, you know, even though Drake May made some mistakes that had nothing to do with Will Campbell, I mean, he was running for his life from the very beginning. And obviously that affected him. But Will Campbell is a rookie, and Will Campbell was drafted, I think, fourth overall in the draft last year.
Yes.
So he's a top five pick who, for what, whatever it's worth, he made it to a Super Bowl in his first year. But he's a top five pick. making top five money at a position where you can make a lot of money. Um, and he got his ass just chewed up in the playoffs. And a lot of the talk is like, well, you can move him to a different position. Apparently, he has like T-Rex arms or whatever the fuck. I don't get it. But they're like, you're going to move him, right? But then there's also like, this is a top five pick, and we're a year in. And it seems like the Patriots are treating it like that. Like, we just can't play around with a top five pick. So we're going to ride this out for now, even though, it may cost us because this was our choice and we're going to live with it. And it kind of feels like my comparison is that Will Campbell is very much like in the Aaron Wolf thing, where like he might not be ready for what he's being asked to do, but it you can't change it. You've got to go with it. So I don't know if I would do exactly what they're doing. I certainly wouldn't have paired him with Ren Narita. I would have paired him with somebody like, I mean, Jesus Christ, it's the Never title. Just pair him with Ishii. I mean, I know Ishii's like the panacea for everything, but like, I don't know, just let Ishii carry him to a great match.
Shingo's not doing much right now.
Shingo's, like he's got the thing with Drilla, but right now they're in the New Japan Cup. Like Ren Narita is just heatless, even though his whole like persona and the whole gimmick is about getting heat. And again, like the heat may just have to all come from Aaron Wolf, but it's gonna be dire.
Yeah, I think like what they did with Evil was a really good start. It was a really good idea. It was the right opponent. It was, you made Aaron Wolf look like a badass when he's, judo throwing all these House of Torture geeks. But it kind of
Hmm.
feels redundant if we're just going to fast forward a month later and his next, his first title defense, his next major match is him, getting beat up by the assembly line of various House of Torture gimmicks. And like Aaron Wolf was used to get over Ren Narita as the new leader of House of Torture, which is something that I think nobody wants to actually see.
Well,
And
and it's just an inferior version of what they've already done.
yes. And like this is a company that needs star power, and Wolf's a star. He's not a star
Hmm.
in the traditional pro wrestling sense, where he's just like a super over pro wrestler, but he's a celebrity that's wrestling.
Hmm.
But they could really use somebody with his star power, especially when you look at like they don't have Tanahashi's retirement tour this year. Naito's gone. We've already talked about that. Okada, Ospreay, those guys aren't around.
Hmm.
So this is the guy you need to kind of do some of the heavy lifting, even if he's not gonna be ready for it. I mean, it's really like I've heard people say like, "Oh, this means they're not that high on him," and it's like I don't know how you could come to
No.
that and how you can come to that conclusion at this point. He's had like what like seven career matches maybe. Like
Yeah. Well, and
he's
also I can't emphasize it enough. If they're putting like they love House of Torture
yes,
and they
this was
think
in
wrestling with House of Torture is like the peak of what you can do in this company.
yeah, true.
Like they think,
Yeah,
but
that's probably a fair way to look at it.
well, and also like sorry, I didn't really answer your question, but inevitably, but um, again, it's like it's beside the point right now, but like long term, like, cause I think you could make the point like his in ring doesn't really matter right now, but I mean it will. So I think this is important to look at. I feel like, he's doing like cool stuff. I think he's good at like doing the basic stuff and the selling. He hasn't really done a lot in these tags. He's really coming in at the end just to clean up. Um, so they've been protecting him that way. I would say the one thing I'd be a little cautious of, he's very soft on some things. Like some of the times he does some stuff and it's like he's just kind of gently placing the guy on the mat. So I do think like that's something that can look a bit weird at times. But, I mean, again, like if he was a young lion, he'd be having like he'd still be in the phase where he's having 10-minute draws with whoever his, dojo partner is.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're like the beginning
And
phase.
I think the big fear with him before Wrestle Kingdom, when he had made a handful of appearances beforehand, was like there was concern that he wasn't going to have any charisma.
Right.
And I don't think that's the case. I think he comes across pretty well. And he showed a
Yeah.
lot of charisma at Wrestle Kingdom. So,
Yeah, no.
um,
It's only gonna get better at that.
yes, and he has like a level of aura to the Japanese audience. I think like physically, like he doesn't really look that intimidating. Um,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's a disqualifier. I've heard people's like, people talk about his body and stuff like that, and some people zag a little too hard, be like, I think it's actually good that he has a bad body because he looks different. I'm like, I think it would look better if he had like abs, but that's not a deal breaker. There are plenty of really good wrestlers who don't have good bodies. I mean, like Tomohiro Ishii should not be a wrestling star by any
Well, and
means.
they were mentioning it on the flagship. Hiromu does not have a good body either.
His body's gotten like ever the injury. Like at one point he wasn't like that. You know
No.
who doesn't have a good body is Yuto Ice.
Yeah, no, I mean,
He's got
I would
those
give
short,
him.
he's got those Misawa pants pulled up real high. Like
Oh yeah, it's getting into Mil Mascaras territory with him.
Mil Mascaras with the tights up to his nipples.
Oh my God.
To
But
be
I will
fair, Mil
give Yuto
Mascaras
this.
was like 68 years old, so
That's true, but he's still you know, you know, job no bueno. But he Yuto Ice, like at least like I think the thing with Aaron Wolf is like he doesn't look like thick. Like when you look at Ishii, it's like all right, Ishii's like built like a mailbox, and Yuto
Ishii's
Ice
just
kind of has
got
that wideness.
Ishii should not be used as a standard. It's like whenever a short quarterback was being drafted and people would be like, "Hey, Drew Brees, he's short." I'm like, "Well, Drew Brees is like the most accurate thrower over the football of all time. So like it doesn't really matter that he's short." Like
Right, like
Ishii
the
is like a generationally charismatic, like genius professional wrestling performer that carries himself like he's 6'5" and 350 pounds, despite
oh
being like 5'4". Like,
he's in the Hall of Fame, and he's had like two world title matches in his whole career,
yeah, he's
maybe
he's he's
one.
like a he's like a he should be viewed as like a freakish exception to any standard, as opposed
Oh
to being
yeah,
like, well, Ishii, he wasn't that good. I'm like, yeah, well, that's one in a billion type of
oh
wrestling
yeah. Well,
performer.
and that's why it kind of bothered me the next year when Shingo got in because I think Shingo was like a totally different case. Like I think, like Shingo carried and had that all that Dragon Gate stuff, but I think I
It
see some people who are
bothers you
like,
that Shingo got in? Or you're more annoyed that people were lumping Shingo in with Ishii?
right, that they were like, oh,
Because it
now that
doesn't bother
Ishii's
me
in,
that Shingo went in at all.
oh no, oh no, it just what bothered me was that it was like, oh, Ishii's in, now we can let in guys who are only candidates based on their
Yes,
work,
yes,
like Shingo, and
that's unfair. Yeah.
I don't think Shingo's case is just on his work,
Yeah. I
but he
mean,
got
even if
in,
it
I don't
was,
care.
I wouldn't have a problem because Shingo fucking rules. So,
Yeah, I mean, you can have two one in a billions at the same time, so, but with
but I'm more of
with
like
Aaron,
Ishii, just like Ishii, like from like athleticism, physical perspective. Like
oh yeah,
Shingo
yeah.
is a great physical professional wrestler with a good body and everything like that. Um,
Yeah, and I wouldn't go as far. I think I agree with you there that like I wouldn't be like, oh, his body's a positive for him. I think it's like, I mean, again,
it's
we were
not
talking
a
before about
deal
like
breaker for him. It's
no,
not a
but
deal breaker, which is important.
like the guy you were talking about before, Marashima, right? The guy
Yeah.
who just like, he won
Hmm.
the Young Lions Cup and he's off to excursion, I think in Germany. He wasn't always this tubby, pudgy guy. He just became that. He bulked up in the dojo,
Yeah, you've
and you
seen that
see that,
Chanko.
right? Like,
Yeah.
right, and Kato too. Like Kato was kind of
Yeah,
this
him
skinny
and
guy, and
Kato
now
are
he's gotten
both
bigger.
like watching that tag team match. You know what's funny is that you watch these young lions. I will say this: you watch these young lions against each other, and you're like, "Oh, this guy, he looks like he's got some size." Because that's often what you're looking at with young lions. You're looking for
Right.
somebody with size because those are hard to find. And they kind of
Hmm.
look like they're kind of big, but then they got in the ring with Kojima and Makabe, and I was like, "Oh, these
Oh
guys
Jesus.
actually aren't that big."
Well, Kojima's another guy where it's like I don't know if you can compare many people to him, but with Aaron Wolf, it's like again, like imagine a young lion who's a month and a half, 2 months into his career. Like they kind of balloon up and then they sort of tone down. So, I would imagine. you know, I don't think Aaron Wolf is going to look this way. Maybe not in a year, but maybe like a year and a half from now, he's going to look pretty different.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think that might be a little bit different because unlike like these other guys that are, hitting the dojo and training all this, Aaron Wolf's already like an elite accomplished athlete that's gone through, really intense physical training and stuff like that. I don't think he's a guy
Right.
that's like been sitting on his couch for his career and is now just
Oh, that's
starting to like
true.
go to the gym for the first time.
That's true. I mean, I guess I don't know much about like judo bodies then. I don't know
Yeah,
if
I
he's
mean, I
one of
don't
the
have to
thick.
like judo. I know is weight class based, so you might want to sit at a certain weight, and whether or not he's at the weight he was when he was competing or not. I'm not worried about his body. Um, it was it was a concern before Wrestle Kingdom where it's like this guy doesn't really have that good of a body and uh he doesn't seem to be showing that much charisma and we kind of have no idea how over he's going to be in the building. But then as soon as he came out, you're like, "Oh, the fans see him as a big star." And then like, he hit a couple moves. You're like, "Oh, okay, everything's fine." All that
Oh
stuff
yeah,
we were worried
no.
about is a non-factor. I don't know if he's going to be like, Jun Akiyama, Kurt Angle, you know, Jumbo Tsuruta kind of like level guy. That's
Just
that's really
prodigy, right? Yeah.
yeah, that's unfair expectation, even though we've seen elite athletes do that before. Um, but it's way too early to tell. Like, I guess he could be like really, really bad. Like, and we've seen that before too. Like we saw that with Gable Steveson,
Right.
where it's like, okay, this person
Well,
doesn't have it.
yeah, I guess to that I would say once again, like, for one thing, like, they announced it in June that he was joining and stuff. And
Yeah,
I don't know this. This is just me speculating. Um, I would imagine that, that was not the like, they make the announcement and then he goes to the dojo and starts training. I would imagine that is not the first time he stepped in that dojo. I would
yeah.
imagine they must have taken a look because they were not gonna. I mean, obviously they probably would have done it anyway just because of how famous he was. But you know, I doubt that they would have put him out there if they really didn't feel like it could happen or if it was doable.
Yes, they wouldn't have announced it. Like, yeah, he's actually never seen a wrestling show before in his life, but we're signing him to a contract anyway. Like, I think
Right.
he
And
was familiar.
again, I think judo has always, translated well to wrestling anyway.
I'm trying to think. I'm thinking of Ronda Rousey and Bad News
Rousey.
Allen Coach are the two people that
Well,
I'm
Yuji
thinking of.
Nagata.
So,
Or not
so
Nagata.
yeah, I was gonna say I think Nagata's an amateur wrestler, right?
Not Nagata. Oh damn it, I can't remember it. Ah, God, it's too late for me. There's been others in Japan.
It is not too late for you. You're just thinking about the 7 hours of Evil you gotta watch after this.
Well, I'm also like the Japanese did win the gold medal, and I'm getting a little bit emotional again. Like it was a real comeback story. And also, like I know you're hating me bring this up, but they've run two commercials tonight for the women's individual that's starting tomorrow. And like one of them was Taylor Swift narrating it, and the other one was like the three girls from the American team, Glenn, Levito, and Lou, like watching footage of themselves like as kids, and like like NBC man, like with like the NBA and NBC coming back and seeing how they handle that versus the way ABC did, and just the way they're like building up, like man, I could fucking run to Torino right now. I swear to God,
Yeah,
or
I'm a big
Milan.
fan of NBC's overall sports presentation. I think they do a really good. I'm a big Premier League fan. I think they do an absolutely excellent job with the Premier League and have
Oh my God,
for a number
oh
of
yeah,
years. Their basketball, the NBA, it's been really refreshing, as you mentioned, especially compared to ESPN. Like they take you into the arena and they show you like the pregame stuff, like what you would see in the arena, like the hometown announcer just being like, "Okay, now you're Denver Nuggets," and it's like gets you more excited for the game than some talking head just like saying like so and so's
right,
got to step up.
right.
Um,
Oh, I mean, it just like I know you're not into it, but it's just like it was like this long commercial and it was really intense with like the girls watching the footage or Taylor Swift doing the stuff, and then it was like it was like the wait is over, women's short program tomorrow night in prime time, and I'm just like, oh my God, I might have to call out tomorrow just to wait for 8 o'clock at night just so I can watch this. Like it's That's what's great about the Olympics, though, those showcase events that they strategically place in the 2 weeks.
If you can, yes, yes, of course. Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up because
Sorry, yeah,
you're a very busy guy. I think we did manage to
obviously
get through.
not.
There's some more topics that we could get discussed, but I think we're good holding it for here. Is there anything you want to plug outside of your evil? What do you think is like Grand Theft Auto 6 gonna come out, or are you gonna finish this evil write up first?
Oh God, boy, you lot. I'm not a gamer. I don't know anything about games. The only game I like is Toe Jam and Earl and old
Yeah.
Genesis games. So I guess I
Grand Theft Auto 6 is just the proverbial game that's been delayed year after year after year. It's
right.
been like
It'd
all
be
about
more
to come
like
out every year.
yeah, more my speed is like if Hunter x Hunter's gonna finish before I finish this article. No, the article I'll start writing it this week. Um, I have like it's gonna be structured like an evil match. That was my big
Oh
like
my
thing that
God.
I was gonna do.
Like so it's gonna
So
be like this very artistic
yes,
done performance.
yes, and because I was, my original
Performative
thought was
art.
I was
Yeah.
gonna, well, because so many people have different thoughts on evil, so my thought was I was gonna ask a bunch of people questions about evil and stuff, and I was gonna sprinkle it throughout, and then I was like, I should just do it like when the ref gets bumped and House of Torture just floods out of the
Yeah, and
backstage. So that's what I'm gonna do. So so I'm gonna start asking people some questions, and I'm gonna start writing, and it'll probably take me a couple weeks to write it, but I would say like this is feeling like an 8 to 10,000 worder, but we'll see.
just in time for Evil's WWE debut.
Well, I have actually thought about that. Oh, the other thing I'm doing. Oh, right. So, all right. So I know you're already disappointed in me with the stuff I said before, but there is actually one other thing I'm doing for the article. So, so I've actually gone through the
I'm not
backstage
disappointed in you.
comments.
I'm worried about you.
Well, you might be calling for a safety check on me after this one, because I went through the backstage comments and as I was going through the matches from the last year, about a year, 2025, and I found all the times that Evil did that laugh that he started to do near the end, that ha ha ha, like that. So
Is that going to be his new
I've got,
Yeet?
so I've got all of them, and I'm making a like a compilation of them. So it's just all those ha ha ha's. So that'll also be in the article.
Do you want to know what my favorite Evil moment is?
Yes.
And unfortunately, I looked for it a few years ago, and it's not on New Japan World. I'm not 100% sure why it's not on New Japan World, but Evil beats Okada in the G1, which is the peak of his career.
Oh, so like
Which
a LIJ Evil?
Yes, and that eventually
Yes.
sets up, he has a match, I think, at, like King of Pro Wrestling or something,
Yep.
for the world title. It's like the peak of his. I guess he wins the world title. That would probably be the peak of his career, but this is my
Yeah,
personal
somewhat.
favorite moment of his career.
I mean, he
And
drew like 10,000 people for that Okada match.
and um like it's a really, really good match in the G1, and he hits, his
Hmm.
finisher. Everything is evil. And throughout the tournament, Rocky Romero just had this really dramatic call of anytime he go, everything is evil.
Yep.
And, he has this great back and forth match with Okada, and he hits that finisher, and it's like, the match is over. And Rocky is, and Rocky just hits it so perfect. It's like, everything is evil. And I'm like, you just feel the momentum, and it's just fucking awesome. And
Yeah.
the match is on New Japan World, but like you can only watch it with the Japanese commentary, and it's just kind of
Yeah,
like
there's some of those,
frustrating
yeah.
because I'm like, why don't they have the English commentary? I know it exists because I watched it in real time, and I don't know. It's just like something about Rocky Romero's the way he called it and the way the momentum of the match was going and how you felt like it was actually not someone I was particularly like a huge fan of, but I respected Evil at that time certainly.
Sure.
And getting the biggest win of his career and actually felt really important that he did. Um,
Oh yeah.
just just makes you feel good about pro wrestling in a way.
Oh yeah,
And
because I
that's
mean
my
that was
favorite Evil
also
moment.
yeah, and that actually leads to, well, I can give away one of the things that I kind of think is like evil doesn't hurt or harm. That's one of my main takeaways. Like, if the company's doing really well, he's going to draw 10,000 people at King of Pro Wrestling, or, he's got in the October match against Okada. And if the company's not doing well, you were going to have what happened when he faced Sonata at King of Pro Wrestling in 2023, where they drew like 4,000 people in the same building. He's just whatever is going on. He
He
doesn't
is a
raise the temperature or lower it.
he is a perfectly neutral variable.
But that's actually an interesting point because that King of Pro Wrestling match with Okada, that's actually the first time anybody kicked out of Evil's finisher, and his finisher's only been kicked out of twice, and both times by Okada. Okada did not lose to House of Torture Evil. He faced him several times, but he wasn't losing to that guy.
I think it was a smart decision by Kazuchika.
Yeah. Oh, listen, don't underestimate how smart that guy is.
I love Okada. I think like it's become trendy to hate on him and like AEW ruined him and stuff like that. He's so amazing. Every time I see him, I'm just amazed by him.
I mean, listen, I don't know
He
what, listen, we got 11 months, but listen, that's the match of the year. I'm not going to hear any other options. The match
he
of the year's already happened.
he like I know he says bitch and it's like a catchphrase in AEW and like I get that. Like he's just so charismatic. Like him I don't know him doing this thing in America where like he's doing this kind of like slow burn with him and Takeshita and like he's playing dumb,
Ooh,
but you know that he's just playing dumb, and like the audience can see through it, but no one else can. And just the way he looks at the camera and the way he does this fake smile, and I'm just like, this guy, he's just so telegenic, and
yeah.
just,
Well,
he's,
also,
he's
he's
just
40,
perfect.
like, he's 40, you
He's
know?
he's he's
Like,
the
what do you want
best.
from him at this point in his career? He's fucking 40. And he's already, like, he's done enough to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest ever. You know, whatever he's doing in
So
AEW, whatever. He's 40
Dave,
and he's already that.
like Dave Meltzer has this point he said several times where he's like, I'll never say someone is better than Kobashi. Like someone could be as good as him, but I'm never gonna say that somebody is better than Kenta Kobashi. And I kind of feel that way about Okada. Like there are
Interesting.
other people that I probably might even enjoy more than Okada in like, but like in
Hmm.
just terms of like if we're doing like S tier all-time great professional
Right.
wrestlers, he's in the S tier, and I wouldn't feel comfortable putting anyone else above him.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know what? That's it. I've never heard that before. I think I'm probably the same. I don't know. I guess it's kind of a paradox, but I'm probably the same about a few people. I would say
Yeah.
Okada's one of those guys for me. Kobashi probably is one of those guys for me. I probably put Terry Funk number one over everybody. So I wouldn't put anybody above him, but probably about that.
I mean,
Okada's one of those guys.
objectively, like for me, like wrestling is like subjective, and each wrestler is should be like judged on their individual merits and not necessarily compared to one another. So it's like I view it the same way. Like I couldn't give you a ranking of like, okay, here are the greatest movies of all time. Number one, number two, number three. Like movies are like, they're individual works of art that deserve to be judged on their own merits and not compared to one another. And but I could come up with a list of like these are the movies that I think are my personally like my favorite movies of all time in some sort of tier structure. And I feel the same way about wrestlers because like you mentioned like Terry Funk, like I don't really know like is Okada better than Terry Funk? Like that's a stupid argument that I don't want to have. Like
Well,
they're
it's like
totally different
comparing like
wrestlers.
oh, it's like comparing Bob Cousy to like Jason Kidd, right? Like you
Yeah,
can't do it because like the game is so different from when they played,
yeah.
but
Or
they were
even
like the same level of greatness when they played.
Yeah, it's like, let's have a discussion about who we think was a better wrestler. Like, Lou Thesz or Rey Mysterio Jr. Like, that's such a dumb conversation to have. Like,
Well, that's what's the beauty of wrestling is that you've got that variety.
terrific. All right,
I
thanks a lot,
wouldn't
J.
sell
Michael.
yourself short. One second. I can't let you get away with that, though. I hate the word subjective. I won't let you get away with it. Maybe it's because I have a history background. but there's no such thing as subjective. Everybody, there might be more than one valid point, but if you can back it up, your assertions, then you've reached into the objective, my friend. And I know that that's what you do. So don't downplay our efforts here.
Now I gotta feel like I gotta make a determination about who's better, Rey Mysterio Jr. or Luthez. I'd rather watch a Rey Mysterio Jr. match than a Luthez match. That's for sure.
Ray's still wrestling, right?
Yeah, he's
Is
still
he?
wrestling in WWE. Yeah,
God, good for him.
for someone that
Oh,
seemed like
right.
they're. Yeah, I think he was a big stem cell treatment guy. Turned his career around
Oh, interesting. Right,
because he
and
was
his
like
his
chronically injured like 15 years ago.
yeah, right. Jesus, at least 15. I remember reading stuff like in '95 where they were like, "Oh, his injuries might put him out of action," and it's like, here he is, 30 years later.
Yeah, all those guys, they're all every high flyer is going to end up like Dynamite Kid in a wheelchair, except for the fact that none of them ever are, and they all wrestle forever and ever and ever, usually at a really high level.
So I'm telling you, man, those lucha guys know how to go. They know how to work forever.
Yeah, they don't take back bumps. And they
That's
also
good.
usually don't walk around with an enormous amount of unnatural muscle mass, which is actually the biggest harbinger for injury, probably.
Well, enough about Drilla Maloney.
Hey, I'm a
He's
fan.
back.
We
I'm
didn't talk
I'm a
about him at
big
all.
fan. I know. I think that's a very good decision to stick around.
I like a guy, and I like him in the G1 every year for this reason. I like a guy that just has an incredible like kill shot finisher, and if he hits it, it's
Yes.
over. And every single one of his matches can kind of be built around like this guy's, he's definitely beatable, but man, if he hits his finisher on you, you die and you lose. That's a fun
And
gimmick for like a mid-card guy to have, especially when he's working like the first matches on these G1 shows.
of course, I mean, that's what got Chase Owens through. I mean, when the crowd knows it, like you hear the
Yeah.
reaction when he lifts a guy up, and it's like, yeah, I mean, Drill is a guy where I know, I know he wanted to sign off. Just one quick thing about Drillo. You know, I know that like he's been around for a very long time, even though he's still, 27 or 28 or whatever. This is just like something about him. I don't know, like something instinctual or just my own thing about him is I just kind of feel like, even if he hasn't been great or he hasn't really done anything great so far in his career, I feel like he might rise to the occasion in New Japan if they push him. I have nothing to base that on. I just have a feeling.
Well, he's probably going to get the opportunity because of some of the space being cleared out, especially from like a War Dog perspective. Like
Oh, I hope so.
Finlay is out the door. Gabe Kidd is seems like he's on some trajectory to be leaving. Clark Connors is gone.
Yeah.
Clark Connors he should give like 20% of his paycheck to Darby Allin that he gets from AEW because I guess he could have been signed before that Darby Allin match he had, but Darby Allin, who is probably the best wrestler in the world at making other wrestlers look good because he'll just take
Hmm.
crazy bumps and he weighs like 150 pounds. Like he made Clark Connors look like Clark Connors was like Pete Goldberg or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
interesting.
just because like Clark Connors is, running around and like trucking him and Darby Allin's like flying like
Yeah.
30 rows back. And it's just I was like, if that's like the Clark worked that match like somebody that was trying to impress someone to get a job, which he successfully did. So credit to him.
I mean, again, they weren't going to push him past a certain level anytime soon. And
I
I
mean, but
think he,
the reality is in New Japan is that any foreigner, especially if they're American, is not going to be long for the company.
no.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense for them professionally to. Most of them would prefer to work in America from a travel perspective, even if they like going to Japan, and they're going to
Right.
make more money in America. And that's
Yeah, I
pretty
mean, I
much the
think
end of
that's the
it.
biggest thing right now is like, that's actually funny because, speaking of Terry Funk or like a Stan Hansen who chose Japan over
Yeah.
America, yeah, those days are over, aren't they? Where like guys would just like, because I think I was listening to Between the Sheets and they were talking about how Scott Hall would have stayed in WWF, but he wanted to like be allowed to work for All Japan. And like
hmm
that's what it was. It was like those massive paydays, and like now it's the opposite. It's like get me the hell out of Japan so I can actually make some money.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is just the financial game is so high in the Western because the television money and things like that, and
Right.
either a
Yeah, I don't know if
billionaire
that's
or a
for the
billion
better, but
dollar conglomerate is running the company. Um, I mean, a lot of it I think is just the travel has to like that flight to Japan's not easy, and
no, I mean, that was
even
the thing
if
with Tama. With hey, you have kids.
yeah, like and even if you absolutely love Japan, a lot of these guys love Japan. They love going to Japan. They love working in front of the fans. It's just it wears you down. Like I remember,
Well, yeah. And
like
then the
in I
system, I
remember,
mean, it's like, you're there for a month.
yeah, I remember like AJ Styles, like he's just like yeah, like he's like I'm over 1,000,000 miles this year on Delta. I was like 1,000,000 miles.
Oof.
Think about that. Like
Well, he's the like the I don't know if he might be the exception to the rule, but I mean Jesus, I mean I'm trying to think of a better example of somebody who changed scenery and like resurrected their career in that way. He might be the number one example for me.
yeah, well, it was a different time period too.
Yeah,
Like
well, yeah, he was at the vanguard of it. I mean, it all stems from him, doesn't it?
yeah, I mean, I've pitched this idea. I think there might even be like some book about it, but it's probably like I thought about like if I was like a good book subject would be like 2014 being the most important year in like wrestling history, in recent wrestling history in terms of like
Sure. NXT.
AJ leaves TNA and it just kind of like starts this new chapter of the pro wrestling industry with the like American indies becoming a more substantial business, New Japan taking off in outside of
Yep.
Japan and taking off inside Japan as well. WWE really going into decline and really creating this whole environment for a non-WWE major pro wrestling challenger company that
But
emerges
but
5 years later.
but launching the network that year.
Yep. It's really like historically important. Like we should be looking at 2014 the way we look at like I don't know like 1997 or something like that.
Right. Yeah, oh yeah, like 1984. Yeah,
Yeah, like these big years. Anyway, that's it. Thank you everyone
got
for
it.
listening. Thank you, Jay Michael.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrew Rich, and if you're like me, you look at the state of modern wrestling discourse and think, wow, what a cesspool. That's why I'm here to tell you about Music of the Mat Remix. That's right, your favorite wrestling music podcast is back with a new format, where I bring on a guest and we play songs related to wrestling-themed topics. It could be a wrestling reference, a wrestling concept, a wrestling pun, things of that nature. Now you might be saying, Andrew, that is a very, very tenuous connection to pro wrestling on a wrestling podcast network. Is this just an excuse to hang out with your friends and talk about music and ignore the rest of the wrestling landscape? Yes. Yes, it is. So listen to Music of the Mat Remix on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, available on Apple, Spotify, or your podcast player of choice.